Good evening. Welcome back. Back. Been a couple weeks now, I guess, but had to skip last week, and life's been a little crazy. But here we are again. Welcome back, everyone. Saw Nico here earlier, and Revenant's here as well. Welcome. Hope everyone had a good time away. Now life's been a little busy for me, so that's why kind of these little throwback, or I shouldn't throwback, but just kind of streaming schedule got a little off, of course, now with the holidays and everything. So I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving if you're celebrating or celebrated. Fully stuffed of turkey here. The whole family is, with all the trimmings that go with it. So all done with that. But as probably several of you are aware of, that I picked up quite a bit of stuff in VCF Midwest in Chicago in September, and I've been working on off on making a video on it. You think that that's something I could make a video very easy on? Yeah, the reason it's a different angle tonight is because of this. Woo! Look at that. I'm going to show off some of the stuff I have today, and we're going to do that here. We're using the BenQ camera. I'm going to test it out a little bit for this particular purpose. The nice part with the camera is that it's very useful for this kind of overhead. So, eating Brett, welcome. Eating Bluebeard. But yeah, it's one of those things. I figured I could make a quick video on it, and I kept working a little bit on it, a little bit on it, a little bit on it, and just forgot about it and started working on it again. And it's like, I need to rotate my stuff. So we're gonna make a stream tonight and just go over the stuff I picked up in Chicago, which now is several months ago, right? So it's right on time. Evening, Sukra, welcome. Sukra now in the States, so welcome in a closer time zone than usual, at least. So hopefully it's not too cold there. But I'm eager to kind of just move on from this stuff, and not necessarily that I don't, have to show it, but I like showing it off, and I like to show it before I kind of store it away. I figured this is a good opportunity to just chat about the things I picked up and my future plans for them, things that I think might be cool. There's when you go to VCF or an event, it's really hard not to just buy a lot of stuff, especially in the case where I drove, right? So I had room in my car, and you find some really amazing deals sometimes. Some things are a little more expensive. Some deals are to be had. And also, what's really cool is you can run into, kind of like makers of new parts for old machines, which is really cool. Usually you can pick up some pretty neat stuff, at event prices, etc. So, evening, Kristen Everson. Yes, it is definitely time for some cool finds. So we'll see. Some of these you've actually seen already, a couple of them, but we will kind of start digging through the pile. I have a huge pile sitting down here of stuff. Some neat things, but don't expect registered version of Doom or a next station or anything crazy like that. I don't usually go for the super expensive, super rare stuff, but I do like finding some random things. So we're gonna try out then with this camera here, and I have that rigged up for here. This is using the BenQ camera I'm testing. It has a couple of neat features we'll use for this purpose as well, but that's what you're looking at tonight, which is basically my new action cam at that point. So, but let's dig into the pile and see what we have here. And everyone can feel free to pile on their memories of particular things. If there's some things that you remember, whatever, I'd love to hear all of your, memories of the things too. Oh, all right, cool. Evening Guitar is one. Yeah, that's the thing too. It's like I love to say hi to everyone, but sometimes I'm not that known yet, right? So it's like you run into, it's like, dude, there was one person, like, I think I know you, like I recognize you, like you're Rick. Like, yeah, my t-shirt was on, right? So that's that costs, need to be recognized by some people, but it's still neat to be recognized. But you also don't really know sometimes, like, do I really know you? You run into Clint LGR or whatever. It's like, that's him. He's like a celebrity in this community, right? But not everyone is so recognizable. So, all right, let's take a look first at our little pile here then. So let's see how this camera works out. You guys saw this one. This is the registered version of Terminal Velocity. I've shown this one off before on stream before. So let's try the camera. So it's sitting on manual focus now, but let's try and click this. We'll basically do a new, there we go, a focus lock. So, Evening Mike Boy, welcome. And also welcome Eton975. Terminal Velocity is almost like a legendary game. I think most of us that have used a DOS/Windows 95 machine has probably played Terminal Velocity of some variety. It was on every demo disc shareware thing ever. However, this is the registered version. It's one of those, like, I never have looked for this because it goes for quite a bit of money. And it's not really one that, it's neat to have, but it's not one that I feel is worth like an exuberant amount of money or like ludicrous like some of these go for. So I got this for uh 15 bucks. So I'm not going to complain too much on that one. And it was kind of like of a haggle price. And it is the full registered version then. I mean, the full copy. And I never would have expected to own this. And that's the cool thing with these events like VCF Midwest is that you may not be hunting for something, but you fall on something like this. And it's kind of like a shocker, like, oh, okay, I'll buy that. And then all of a sudden it's in your collection. That's pretty cool. This still has the shrink wrap, but it has been opened. And I have never looked for or intended to get the fully registered version of Terminal Velocity. But I mean, I think most of us have played this. If you happen not to have played it, it is a flying, like 6 Degrees of Freedom-ish game. And where you fly around a planet and blow stuff up. So, and yeah, it was the demo version of this was on like everything. I mean, there were so many versions of this shareware that were kind of passed around. So let's see if I can open the box here to get it out, but not actually wrecking it in the process. Got the nice like, how this box is designed. Here comes the stuff. Kind of flew out. Oh. Some of these like fold out boxes. Yeah. And it looks like this is actually unopened. I haven't even looked, but yeah, so this is still sealed then. Still in shrink wrap. This looks to be the fully registered version, I think. Yeah. Yeah, there you have Hellbender. And then also, what's the other one? There's one from Microsoft that they published. What's that one called? Like Tide something? Someone jog my memory, but there is one, right? That I don't remember. But yeah, here's the actual registered version unopened then. So can't really complain about that. And that's the kind of find that's just really, really cool to run into because you never know. And that's why I like, yes, Fury. Thank you. Fury 3. That's exactly what I was thinking. That's one I keep my eye open for as well. Not one I'm hunting for, but one we need to have. Because I remember seeing that in catalogs. That's what makes this VCF event so cool because, again, you may not be like, I'm literally looking for this one. You're probably not going to find your holy grail, and if you do, it's going to cost a lot of money. But stuff like this is what makes it really fun to pick up random stuff. I'll show you something that's really neat with the idea canvas that I can do. It has a little magnet lock. I can do, whoa, and I can pop in here. So we can do that pretty easily if we need to. And you can also see what happened there is that it actually flipped around based on the fact that I put it pointing this way. So it actually flips the image. So it's pretty convenient, but there we go. Yeah, that's what I did too. I brought quite a bit of free pile stuff that I just kind of, wanted to get rid of. And that's a good way to do it because it gets used by people. I had some Atari ST business software that I was never going to use, and I put it on free pile, and it was gone pretty quickly because, someone who loves Atari ST probably found it and like, that's great. They can use that stuff. And that's the best part of that. But yeah, Terminal Velocity, super happy to have that one in the collection, even though it wasn't like planned or, sought. So let's see. I think we have... I showed this one off. I'm going to try and keep up on chat here now, but... and that's the hard part. I hear you. Guitar is one there. It's like you don't really want to bring stuff. Well, stay in there too on the desk, but yeah, this is usually where I have a mouse pad, like a huge one, so you wouldn't see this. So the angle is different because normally I sit like this and stream over here, right? So now I'm angled this way, which is where my computer is, and that's why I have the camera mounted then up here to my monitor. So that's what you're seeing. Next one is Alice in Wonderland, the American McGee's Alice. Let's do the focus again on that. Which you guys saw during the stream of the game, and I wanted to show it again here. But this is the Mac edition. We'll have a few more Mac edition games here coming down. Can you focus? There we go. Lock it in. And also one that I never anticipated to find, because this one all starting to fetch kind of a bit of a premium. This is, again, the Mac edition, which I believe was ported by Asper later on. Also one that's super neat to have, because I was not hunting or looking for this. Being able to find this again... just on the fly is just really cool. Let's see. We have the... Whoa. We have stuff flying everywhere. Let's see if we can do a zoom in on the system requirements there. We can look right there. Zoom here. There we go. Mac OS 8.6 or later, 400 megahertz or compatible, or faster. So this will be a good one for a, a G4, like what is it, I have a Mirador machine, and that's probably a really good one for this, and we'll get to playing on this one probably at some point. We did stream this, of course, a few weeks ago and had a lot of fun, but that was on the Windows version, so. And there we go, lock. I'm not having the autofocus on, because autofocus can be really tiring as it's trying to focus and find and hunting, so I have it in manual focus now. We'll see how that goes, but prefer doing the manual focus because you have more control, but see what's in the actual box. That can be fun too. Sometimes when we get the feely sort of interesting stuff in here, we'll look around. Not much in here, it looks like. We have the CD. Ooh, we have the case book on that, and then the product registration. So not much exciting stuff in here. But still, it is a fully registered full version of Alice, and I think a lot of us as well. I did anyway. I had a demo for it, played out a little bit, but then when we streamed it, that was probably the most I played. So, Ian Bruce, welcome. Hello. I'm sorry. Hello. And so what you're gonna see here, if we're gonna see here is a few of these Mac games. What happened was, and there's gonna be quite a few pickups here that are Mac related. And what happened was that towards the end of the event, I kind of like, throughout the event, I will just do kind of like rounds to see if people put out new stuff. There's a new stuff being displayed. Often people are kind of clearing their stock out towards the end of the event, and they're really ready to sell things to not bring it home. Some people put down prices a lot, and some people didn't at all, and that's fine. That's their fair game if they want to bring it home again, right? In this case, I happened to come across a gentleman in a corner who had a lot of Mac stuff, including a stack of Mac games, which we'll see quite a few here now. And I don't really hunt for Mac games, but I, of course, have Macintoshes of this era. And I'm a big fan of the Power Mac G4s, the kind of the AGP end of 90s era, because they're kind of equivalent to my favorite era of PCs, right? And the gentleman there had games stacked up, and I grabbed all the ones that seemed interesting to me, and they were pretty cheap. They were like $5 a pop, these. And they're worth more than that, of course, but not worth that much to me, if that makes sense. I wouldn't pay market price for this game. I don't think it's worth what they're asking, which I think usually is 50, 60 or more often for a big box copy of this. And when you find it cheap like that, it's fun for me because I'm going to use this. It's going to go to something versus a resell. And when I'm done with it, or I'm not going to use it anymore, I'll probably pass it on, in the sense that I'm not interested in reselling it. Then that's what's happening a lot of these events, which is kind of sad. But there's a lot of stuff trading hands for people that actually get a chance to use them. So yes, a very crispy box. Came from a gentleman that was clearly taking care of his gear and everything. So that was really nice. And I mean, the box is basically flawless with, a little bit of scrapes here and there, but otherwise it's a really nice one. So those are the two ones you guys have seen already. We have streamed both Alice, of course, and you see in the box for Terminal Velocity. I did show that one off. So we'll keep the Mac train going until we get to some other stuff. I'm going to show everything I got from that Mac table. And yeah, seems like Asper, yeah. Asper is one of the better Mac porting houses, because that's the thing. It's like a lot of games were ported. They were not like, directly coded for Mac. These games were developed for PC first. So let's go to another Mac game. Sacrifice. I wonder if this was made for Mac OS X. I can't quite tell. However, oh my god, this game is awesome. Aspire? Is it Aspire? Aspire? What? No? Don't demonetize me. Probably right. I'm terrible at these things. Excuse me. This is also a game that, I was not hunting for. I've had on my radar for a long time. Sacrifice is a really cool 3D action adventure game or whatever, with some neat mechanics. Again, all these games are late 90s, early 2000s, it seems like. Yeah, there you go, Christian, with the correct pronunciation. Again, sitting in that pile of Mac games, I just couldn't pass it up as well. It was also in the range of the $5. But it's like, I love this late 90s era, right? The 3D acceleration is in full swing, and you get just really cool games. especially with some of these features here. I wonder if I do switch this to autofocus and go in a little bit. There we go. You can see you get some really cool box art. And Sacrifices, I think it's a really unique mechanic because it basically lets you, I think, sacrifice units to, yeah, this game fan, to enhance your other units and everything. It's a really cool mechanic, or Shiny being kind of like their quirky game developers in the late 90s, MDK and all that stuff too, right? And say, what am I forgetting? Earthworm Jim and stuff like that too. I believe it's an action strategy game. So you have a mixture between like RTS, almost like a first-person RTS. Yeah, over 50 different fantastic creatures at your command. So it's basically like a on-the-ground real-time strategy game. Kind of like. Evening, Ian. Welcome. Ian is this Ian Scott of Pico Gus fame here. Welcome in that case. He might have something to show you here soon. Nice. Thanks for the inflation calculation there, Bluebeard. But yeah, the stickers are a little bit like, you know, I don't know. It's neat to me. Even if I'm not always hunting for Mac games, finding them in the wild like this is really cool. But yeah, I think it's we'll stream this game sometime, I think, too, because it just looks like a really interesting, like, I played a demo of it, and I think if I remember right, you basically have units, so you can morph the units and like sacrifice, or go to name, sacrifice the units to take their traits onto other units and stuff like that. So it is a calculation on when to do the sacrifice and when to play the normal way. So yeah, it is real-time 3D action slash strategy on the ground. So yeah. Ian Scott, there, for those that are familiar, he is the creator of the Pico Gus project. So a very exciting project, which we'll talk about here in a second. And I'll let Ian fill it in then in that case, since he's already here. That's awesome. Maybe we should talk about that next, because we'll skip from the big box quick then. I did, from Ian, buy the actual Pico Gus project, the Femto edition, and the, yeah, this is basically a Gravis ultrasound emulator, more or less. Ian, you're more than welcome to fill in any gaps here, because I haven't tried the project yet. It's still a bit on my pile, Ian. It was awesome to meet you at VCF Midwest, and we had a great little chat. And it's like, it's one of those things like with the ultrasound, it's a really cool sound card. Don't get me wrong, but it's not worth the market price, to me anyway, because the use case is so narrow and it becomes a collector's item. If you just want to experience it, you just want to, like, I want to use the ultrasound, but I don't want to pay the ridiculous prices that you see on the market today, then you have things like this, thanks to Mr. Scott here. It's basically an ISA adapter that emulates the Gravis ultrasound, including many other sound cards, and I know you're working on adding more things too. The reason for this particular model is that this can go into those, like, you've seen those, like, LGR covered, among other things. Those kind of small DOS handle machines, the 46, you know, the ones that came from AliExpress. This can actually slot on the side into that, and that gives you basically a sound card on those kind of machines. And that's not something you normally would have, because it doesn't really have space for that. So that's why this particular model looks like that. This board would slot in on this side here, and then you'd put a Pico here. Yeah, I guess he can explain himself with the octopus there. But it basically lets you slot in a Pico here, a Raspberry Pico, and that runs basically the software and everything. But it got a couple of cool features then, including a volume wheel up here. You have the sound out here and a few other things for it too. Well, there we go. So you can set the IRQ, DMA, and actually let's try this. I'm going to use sorry, you're going to get motion sick here now, but whoa. I'm going to go in close and personal here with the autofocus. See if it can focus. Come on, there we go. There we go. So the nice thing with the Idea Cam we're using here now, of course, this is not a great shot, but you can actually go in pretty close. And it actually has another party trick too, which is a close-up lens. If we do this, everyone's going to puke now. You can actually go this close and look at the octopus. There he is. See? There you are. There you are, Mr. Scott. Your copyright. you know, marginally useful, but still a neat party trick, right? So, I'm not sure how useful that is, but it's still a neat thing to be able to do. Um, I think so, Bluebeard. I'll let Ian fill that in, but as far as I know, it's going to work pretty well to be a nice kind of like compatible, because again, you can set the RQ and DMA through here through the jumper settings right there on the board. Um, and I mean, I saw it, and again, I haven't tried it yet. And Ian showed that to me at Midwest, how it worked, and being able to basically switch what it's emulating on the fly inside of DOS. So I'm excited to try it because, again, like I said, the reason that is a cool project is that it's just not worth the money for what it does and what it is, unless it's like the best card in your mind, in your use case. I just can't justify the prices for it. It's become a collector's item. So the nice part with this kind of project here is then you can then get a way to use it in a real retro computer. And yes, yeah, it's emulating it, but that kind of stuff has gotten so flippin' good now. You think about how easy it is to do emulation of the MT32 and things like that, and get a almost identical experience. And you can do it for a fraction of the cost. Ian doesn't charge a lot of money for these. And the one that doesn't come like this, I think you sell it for $45, the ISA version, that might be the one that you're expecting to use, which is an all integrated. The Pico is integrated to the board. You don't have to do this kind of stuff. Now, this is what you had for sale there, so I grabbed this. Being able to use the flexibility of this is pretty neat. You also get the benefit of this is Wi-Fi enabled. You have a better signal on the outside of the computer, but of course, it comes with a 3D printed bracket and everything. So it's a really neat project. I'm really excited to mess with it, and we'll use it for streaming as well, because that's where this is useful. I would love to do this and stream with ultrasound, but there's no way, and heck, pardon my French, that I can justify spending the money for a real ultrasound just for the small use case scenarios of the streaming we might do. It's just not worth it, right? So yes, that is an awesome project. Definitely go check out Ian Scott's website then, which I think it is. Yeah, polpo.org/picogas. I'm not sure if you can paste that in the chat. I'm probably going to filter you. But yeah, look up the Picogas project. He sells those boards directly. Well worth checking out. And that's, for me, going to an event like VCF Midwest, running into the creators. It's awesome to be able to chat with them directly. Often they're selling things right up, right at the event. And it's a great way to meet the people coming up with this stuff, because I'm not smart enough to do this. But yeah, I think I remember you saying that you basically like just figured it out as you went along, right? I'm not sure what your background is as far as like industrial design or coding or anything, but it's usually comes from passion projects, and you can tell that's what's happening. So a really neat project. Definitely go support. There you go. Signed in the state of confusion. Yeah, there you go. And that's this cool thing too. And it's like there's so many. We live almost in like a golden era now of retro computing, in the sense that there are so many projects like this coming out that weren't there before. You have hard drive solutions, processor upgrades, expansion cards, sound card emulators. There's so many cool things, and maybe one day we'll get a Voodoo emulator, but not coming anytime soon. But we have a lot of options now, and that's something we didn't have even 10 years ago. And the fact that we have community members basically creating this, and that's a is it a wavetable header too on this? I think so. Sorry, I'm just so bad at this stuff now. I haven't used it yet. This is the thing. It's been on my pile, and I have just fallen so far behind on my projects lately due to real life. Hoping to get back into it here soon. So we'll definitely use this. Maybe we'll do a dedicated stream where we just set this up and tinker with it and try out games. I think that'll be really fun to do. Yeah. So very cool project. I recommend it, although I haven't tried it yet. So I guess I'm pimping it here without even knowing about it. But I'm excited to mess with it, because again, it is really cool that we get these kind of community products that otherwise, again, you might not experience. Like, you will probably not, unless you're a hardcore collector or get really lucky, going to be able to use or play with an ultrasound. And they're so narrow in scope what they do, it's just not, again, for me at least, it's just not worth the money, what they're charged. They become collector's items. almost like a speculative collector item. And it's just, to me, again, not worth the price. But for someone it might be. But this gives the community a chance just to experience it. So the Pico Gus, awesome. Check out that. Check that out for sure. And we'll definitely do a stream at some point where we're testing it. So thank you, Ian Scott. Let's go back to the big box games here. We'll go back to the Mac. We did a little detour since we have Ian here done. And also, hello, Boca, if I didn't say that earlier. I saw you come into the chat here. Sorry if I missed you, but we're still in the pile of the Mac games from the gentleman I picked up. And we're going to keep going through some stuff here that I picked up, including this one, which I probably can't say without getting freaking demonetized. Heavy Metal FAKK2. You can draw the conclusion from there. Based on the Heavy Metal magazine and all that stuff. This is also the Mac one. But the box is just awesome. So you can see it's very hard to capture because it is very shiny. From Ritual Entertainment, you can see it's embossed. And it is really, really shiny. You know, I'm not sure if this was a port. Or if this was a directly developed. I'm going to assume it was a port, but it's got an awesome, like, fold-out. Yeah, again, it's very hard to get captured. Yeah. Heavy Metal is the ultimate teenage fantasy come to life, mind-bending animation, intense violence, and hard-driving rock. So yeah, it's, you know, this is what the video game industry wanted, you know, what they assumed kids wanted in the 90s, late 90s, which might be true what we wanted. It's a very typical late 90s, early 2000s. This is a 2000 game, 3D accelerated game, right? And that's kind of the style that it has. But yeah, it's a fantastic box. Again, got it pretty darn cheap. And it's one that I just kind of had dismissed that I'm not going to buy it. There's no real reason to buy it per se. I mean, it's a cool game, but I don't know that it's worth it. Also, yeah, it's based on Quake 3 engine. But being able to just pick it up there at the event that cheap. It even has a 3D effects logo here. We'll look at the specs here. Let's see if we can get the focus here to kick in. There we go. So you have a Mac OS 8.6, G3 or G4 Power Mac, including iMac. This one will actually supposedly work on the iMac. But it does have the 3D effects logo here too. Remember that, you know, there was plenty of 3D effects cards for Macintoshes around this era. Macs were really like, I wasn't involved in the Macs for this time period, but I mean, there was a lot of like game development happening, and a lot of games were ported or being released or available for Macintoshes around this era. They really kind of pushed pretty hard to make it a valid gaming platform. A lot of video cards came out similarly, and which we'll see another one here pretty soon. But the box is, it's just something else. It is very, yeah, 90s, in your face, of course, based on the other property. I think Heavy Metal is the magazine, right? The comic, and then it came from there. So let's see what's in the box. I don't think there's a ton in here. I think it's literally just the CD and a registration card. Yeah. So I'm not sure if it came with a manual, but it does have a pretty nice, like, slide out system here to get into the can. Just opens like that. Yeah, that might be it. I am wrecking this because I really don't know. There we go. So that's just one CD on like a weird insert. That's a cool mechanic here. Whoop. The CD sitting right there. We'll probably stream that at some point too. Again, it's a really kind of like, it has like a vibe of like how Jedi Outcast or Jedi Academy feels in that sense, being that Quake 3 feel to it. Yeah, I was not involved or into the Heavy Metal mythos at all, really. So I just remember seeing this in magazines and stuff. I wasn't super interested, but it is also a very typical 2000s video game with all that comes with that. Very extreme and everything, but the box is, this is really cool. It's a little like a metal embossed, highlighting all the features, I guess. But yeah, still a very cool box, and again, one that I was not hunting for or planning to pick up for any, you know, real market price. But it's like everything else. Like, it's only worth what it is worth to you, right? Market can dictate a price, but if you're not willing to spend for it, then so be it. Still a really cool box to have, and I'm glad to have it in my collection. And I'm excited to put these boxes in the main collection now, Because that's what happens before I film a video or I do something like this. I don't want to merge them in here because I don't want to have to make rearranging. So now I can finally merge these in after tonight. So sorry for that. Huzzah. Heavy Metal, yeah, FAKK2. Cool game. Let's see. Let's go to have more. Yeah. Go to the Mac game. Doesn't get any more Mac than Marathon. A very glossy box. Sorry about that, because it's going to be glare bonanza on this box. I don't think it even can focus properly on it. I can do my hand here. Yeah, it has trouble focusing locking because it's so glossy. This is Marathon Infinity, which is the third game in the series, which has a very interesting trapezoid triangular box. I can't even fit it in frame. Again, it was on the pile there for probably about $5. This one is one of those that has a weird shape to it, so it's very collectible. Of course, it's seen better days. It's not in great condition, good enough condition, but I also know that some of these games are never going to be in good condition because they're just so difficult to open. And of course, in this case here, it's very, very glossy. Yeah, again, what Revenant's referring to is the Compact Presario CDS All-in-One, which was literally my first computer. Unfortunately, for me, it's a very, very popular collectible at this point, and I'm just never going to spend that amount of money. I know we've seen it for 400-ish, and even that feels like a lot because you're taking a huge risk shipping. So, very nice. So that was VCF Easton, right? Mike Boyd, you went to that, right? And we're hoping, actually, I'm pretty much in the clear. I will be probably, most likely, could hedge my bets, I will try and be at VCF East next year. My wife and I both will go to that, and maybe some of the people who live in that area is welcome to meet up there too. I think, Sucre, I'm not sure if you're still here. If you might try and go too, it'll be fun to meet up at one of those events. East seems like it's a little more intimate, but also there's a lot of people who live on the East Coast. But yeah, I cannot, in good conscience, justify that amount of money for one computer. There's not a single retro purchase that I can justify for that price. I just can't. And I feel like someone's going to bite on it eventually. So, good evening, welcome. Yeah, it's, it won't stay still, since it's a triangular box, of course, and it's glossy. You can see everything. The action, the tools, the power. Marathon, of course, is kind of a legendary series from Bungie that, you know, pre-Halo, when they were a Mac-exclusive developer. And although this was ported to PC, or several of the Marathon games, I believe, was ported to PC, but developed for the Macintosh initially, right? And it's kind of like one of those, like, archetypical, if you're going to have a FPS for one box or whatever for Halo, or for Macintosh, pretty much has to be Marathon. So that's what I wonder too. Some of these like odd boxes must have been just awful to stock, but yeah, it's really hard to capture because it is so flippin' glossy. Here, maybe I can do this. We'll go to the let's see where the thing is. We'll go to the big camera so you can see it here. So this is the full box then. As you can see, it's white, weird, and triangular, and yeah, there you go. So, but let's take a look at inside here. You can see it's ripped several times over here, just from that same opening action. Because a lot of these weird shape boxes are very difficult to open and access the interior. That is a manual. I think that's pretty much what's in here. It's just a manual and the CD. And the manual is insanely huge. Yeah, I do have another box actually back up here. Let me grab it quick. I've showed this one before, but this is a Spectre VR, which is another one of these like weird ones, right? Trying to be peculiar. And this is the same designer. I forget his name. He made a lot of really weird ones, including the Prince of Persia ones that are like kind of weird. So yeah, Spectre VR. This is a super weird box. Has kind of like a design. I found this at Illinois Electronics in DC at one time. So I had to grab that right away too. It is very, very bizarre. There's one designer. I think that LGR could probably cover that. There we go. Try and get the shine away from there. But that is a insanely large manual. Probably just to fit the box more than anything, because the box is designed that way. It's very large on the back end, right? So, yeah, still black and white, but it's just a manual. And then, like just the CD here. Yeah, Marathon. There you go, on CD. Marathon Infinity, which again is the third game in the series. And again, a very, very cool box to have. When you see a Marathon box in person, you can't really pass it up, unless it's unreasonable, of course. But in this case, it was very reasonable. So I had to grab that, of course. I feel bad because, I mean, I collect big box games, right? And then I think if anyone's here, there were several Mac friends who are very interested in Mac who might get a little sad that I didn't get a chance to grab it first. But that's what kind of happens with VCF. Sometimes you get lucky. If you're not hunting for something and I find something, I do pass it on or let people know. I thought it was like certain type of machines someone was looking for. I let them know, and they ran over and looked at it. It was not what they were looking for. But, you know, everyone trying to pass things on. If I already had a box for a game, for example, then I probably most likely would tell someone else to go get it. But Marathon Infinity, third game in the Marathon series. Let's see, I think that might be it for the Mac finds. Yeah, let's go to some random pickups now here. We have Titus the Fox, which is a platformer, in this case for the Tandy. This is not from the same Mac booth. We'll get to some other parts I picked up there as well. However, these are just random ones I picked up from a specific seller that I happen to know, and I try and do that every year. So, yeah, as far as like, oh yeah, for VCF East, and I'm going to try and go next year, so anyone who wants to meet up there, that'd be awesome. And yeah, this is actually somewhat rare, and this is the actual going price for it that they were asking, and this is from a collector who's slowly but surely kind of weeding out his collection. Refocus there. But it's one of these, like, again, it's not worth it that much to me, but I believe this one is actually pretty rare. This is a Tandy version, and Titus The Fox is basically to Marrakesh back in this case. It's just a typical platformer, but it's also harder to find. This one, I think, for me, Titus, from Titus Software, which is their mascot even for that matter, for me is more akin to Amiga. That's what I consider that. And the fact that this is in the Tandy box is pretty sweet. And that's, again, you may not be hunting for this kind of stuff, but then finding it in the wild is extra exciting. You can always go on eBay and spend a fortune to get these. Of course, this box is of the older kind, so it definitely has, you know, some wear and tear. We just had the floppy, and this floppy has seen better days. It is pretty gnarly. Dusty, who knows what. We actually have a poster here, too, which is also very dusty and gnarly. But it's actually a full poster here. Look at this. And we'll go to the big cam again here. I can find my mouse cursor. There we go. And it looks like the manual is on the back of the poster. That's pretty unique, actually. But this is a game, again, I was not hunting for, but I also recognize it. It has some name recognition, right? Titus The Fox. In fact, this poster's actually been on the wall. Maybe not on the wall, but it certainly has been opened several times. And that's kind of what you expect from a game of this age. This is, of course, like, you know, mid-90s, or mid-80s, or late 80s, I should say. And it's not going to be one that's, you know, probably in good condition. It's going to be hard to find this in good condition. Like the same way you go to Amiga games, Atari games, ST games, they're just old enough that the boxes are usually pretty beat up. But yeah, this is, of course, the PC XT ATPS Tandy 512K, 3.5 quarter. EGA, VGA, CGA, Hercules, supports Adlib and Sound Blaster, joystick optional. So Picogus could run this, I guess. So that's all for requirements, and it says 1992 Titus Software. So I guess that it's later than I thought it was, but also it was kind of like a platformer for the Amiga for me mostly. I don't think this is the first game in the series. There were multiple Titus the Fox games. This just happened to be one of the later ones, I suppose. But yeah, it's a straight up platformer. Yeah, it would be, but I don't think there's any. Let's see if we can go with the puke cam again here. We can look at some of the screenshots here. Focus. There we go. So it is pretty much just a kind of like a standard platformer. But it was a very smooth scrolling platformer, and mostly for the Amiga and stuff. That's the way I associate it with it. You want real enhance? Enhance. That's actually a real enhance. See, do you see the screenshot? Look at that. Look at that quality on that screenshot there. Isn't it amazing? You're actually seeing the pigments. Even in Philly cheesesteak. We'll go back to the normal view here. There we go. So yeah, for the full disclosure here, I'm working on a video right now. Is what you're watching here now is actually the BenQ Idea Cam, which they sent me, and I'm using it as the action cam. And as you can see, there are a couple features for it that I really do enjoy. Which one being this attachable like macro lens, you can put like that and zoom in super close. Being able to move it easily it has some benefits to it. I see the use for it. And actually, if I move the camera up a little bit, it should flip. Didn't. All right, never mind. It will actually auto flip the view to accommodate for the fact otherwise it will be backwards, right? Yeah, a little bit like Jazz Jacker, but I think it's a slower pace game than that. But of course, you know, we have a 90s mascot. He's got a leather jacket on. He's cool. I mean, he's not smirking or has sunglasses, so he doesn't have the full, like, bonus round for a mascot of the 90s. But, you know, we'll take this anyway. But yeah, that kind of platformer. Another one that's just really fun to see. And actually, I saw there was the booth for these games. Some of these you're going to find here now or see as we're going to go through. Excuse me. They had this set up on Friday night there at VCF, and I came in and I saw it. I'm like, I have to hit that booth first thing. And I was trying to catch them as they were setting up, but they already left. So then first thing in the morning, I beeline there because there are a few other games on this pile here that come from that same booth that I don't want to miss out on this. I have to grab those immediately. Titus The Fox was there. So I just had to grab that. I mean, I'm always hunting for big box games, right? And seeing this in the wild feels like I figured I would never see a Titus The Fox box of any kind. And I'm actually not sure how rare the PC version is. For me, this is very much an Amiga game. That's what I associate it with. So really, really cool to have the box for Titus The Fox. So we'll go to the next one from that same pile. Now let's go. Here's a game you probably all know from the NES. This is not the NES version. This is Shadowgate, the Amiga version. And same thing there, that I wasn't expecting to ever see a box version of Shadowgate. And that also did not, I couldn't pass that up. And this is the Amiga version, yeah. I've only played the SNES or the NES version. I think most of us have that ingrained in our brain, and maybe those that have played it. It was, of course, a very popular game on the Macintosh because the ICOM simulation games of Deja Vu, Uninvited. I do have Uninvited, actually, on, which is, let's see. I can find that. I'll look for it later, maybe, but I found it. Yeah, Uninvited as well as another, you can see, develop ICOM, Mindscape, and everything. This is a weird, like, book format one, which is one of these, like, games that are just trying to be really, really difficult. And that's kind of gets the idea, which, of course, this is a very cool case, too. But it's more like a book one. You can see this one here has the Apple or Macintosh screens here. But yeah, having the port for this on the Amiga is super cool. And having the box for it as well. And actually, there are multiple screenshots here. Should we go on the barf cam again here? Barf cam engaged. We can see here, whenever it catches up, there's the Macintosh, which I think that's probably what it was developed for first. We have the IBM here. Looks like it's CGA. We have the Amiga version there, and the Atari ST version. So this is ported to pretty much everything. It looks like Shadowgate may be a very, very ported game by the looks of it, considering. So, sorry for the barf cam there, but it does work. I do enjoy the fact that the webcam sits on a magnet lock, so you can actually take it off very easily and move it around. So that's actually really useful and very handy. Oh yeah, Shadowgate, I think all of us have played it in some variety. For me, it was NES for sure. The sound effects of that are still ingrained in my brain. And then you find a sword in a little entry doorway. Um, the blurb from Computer Gaming World says Shadowgate is an excellent product. That's very generic praise, but we'll take it. It is an excellent product. But yeah, Shadowgate, of course, has you as an adventurer trying to get through the castle of Shadowgate, and you die a lot. Basically, like trial and error, and you die constantly. Let's see. Here's a little better. Shadowgate is technically, visually, and orally superior to most of its competition. Better. In keeping with tradition, Shadowgate is one of the most exciting games around. It has everything a great graphics adventure game should have: great graphics, great sound, great adventure. Both two of those come from Mac magazines, and this from the PC magazine is an excellent product. Yeah, one of the reviews of all time. That's pretty great. I don't think I've ever seen. Why would you put that on the box? It's so generic. It's so incredibly generic. I'm gonna put that as a tagline on my videos now. It's an excellent product. The box itself is just also really, really cool. It's got, whatever the heck that is. I'm not sure if you actually fight that in Shadowgate, but it's got a really cool design to it because it's like kind of like a book cover, and then the game discs come out like so. And yeah, this is again an Amiga game, so keep that in mind, right? It's basically on one floppy then for Amiga. The adventure reference guide on how to use the game. You need a monitor or TV. Color is recommended. 5 to 12K memory. That was the included memory on the Amiga. You could boost it to 1 megabyte if you're so inclined. 1 or 2 disk drives. Printer optional. Got it in there. Reference card. Helpline. I think you can get help here. Send your payments to get help. If you can't figure out what to do next, if you're about to melt your game diskette into a useless blob of nothing, if you're so frustrated you want to throw something like your computer right through the wall, there's hope. You can get hints. $5 per clue sheet payable to Mindscape. Gotta make some money, right? It's microtransaction. You can win free software. I don't think that's applicable anymore. We have a nice little manual. There we go. Nice graphics there. That looks like the Mac graphics to me. Big time. Yeah. But yeah, I think these were probably developed for Mac first. And then, yeah, it had the Shadowgate floppy itself. Stuck in a nice little thing. And this is what happens when you're getting to games like this that are this old. Because this is 1987. The glue starts bleeding through the tag and label and everything. It's pretty much a guarantee that something like this is not going to work. It is not a good idea to try and use these original discs on an Amiga. Probably better to use a backup copy or another alternative way. There's plenty of alternative ways to do that today, of course. Excuse me. It's not always a good idea because these can have disk rot and it can actually hurt your drive. So, I mean, your mileage may vary. I'm not an Amiga expert, but I'd probably be ill-advised to try and use an original Amiga floppy almost at this point in some cases because you're going to potentially cause some damage to your actual drive. There are ways to clean the disk, of course, too. But a lot of them have disk rot and many of them don't work anymore. But we're lucky on the Amiga side that there are tons of good ways to play games without using the original floppy. But Shadowgate, about 15 bucks, pick that up there as well. This, is, of course, goes for more, and I don't feel it's worth that much, but I think it's just really cool to have Shadowgate as a big box piece of software. Cool box here. I don't know. I like it, although I don't know what the heck that is. It's just some feverish dream from a illustrator to decide to draw that for Shadowgate, but you see it came after Deja Vu and Uninvited, so. Here's another one that is a complete, still an adventure game, and a very large box. This is one of the Janman Project boxes, which is the... it is a CD-ROM heavy interactive movie / adventure game kind of thing from that era, right? And I don't have a huge like, oh wow, I gotta have this, but I saw it and it's a really cool box. And I remember seeing the Janman Project boxes in magazines, and it was really hard to pass it up seeing it in person. That's what happens. Like, you remember something sparks your memory. You're like, hey, I remember seeing that in a magazine, or I played it at my friend's house, or I saw it in the store. And then being able to buy it for yourself is a really cool part. Welcome back, Sukra. Hopefully the game's going well. I was just talking a little bit earlier about VCF East, how I'm going to try and make it next year. I wasn't sure if you might even try and make it yourself, so we'll see. And that, of course, makes me want to pick up the other Janman projects, which is basically a series then of, I can't even fit it in the framer. It's such a huge box. One of the best adventure games of the year. Not even an excellent product. Why would I buy this if it's not an excellent product? But it's a time-traveling adventure point-and-click, kind of like Myst, I think. And here's my, I have actually not played this, so I shouldn't really speak ill or good of it. I just don't know. But I also remember seeing the box in pretty much every magazine from this era. And again, it's very point-and-click heavy adventure game with 3D environments. Like, not too dissimilar, I'm going to guess, from like your Tex Murphy games, you Myst, that kind of stuff, right? It's just a really cool box. Huge, too, by comparison. The Shadowgate box is pretty small but in general, but you can see the size difference already there. It is much bigger. Yeah, Mongolian's got to be good, so. Uh-oh. That's all right. Our local team here lost their game yesterday, too, in college football, and that's not to be expected, so. Actually, open it. There we go. Got one of those, like, flaps. Whoop, flap. There's a lot of stuff in here. Yeah, the FMV games are really fun, too. And it looks like there's just pretty much nothing except, of course, 95, yeah. It's got CDs. Let's see. Windows 95 and Power Macintosh. So it's a dual CD. That's pretty cool. It looks like it's on 3 CDs. That's pretty typical for the era. There has a lot of FMVs. They got to fit in, right? 4 CDs. I stand corrected. That is a true multimedia game and multimedia experience. 4 CDs is stamp for approval. It feels like at that era, every game that was multimedia had to have like 3, 4, 5, 6 or more CDs to fit all their video. And it was like a thing, and everyone was like, yeah, look at how many CDs it has. Usually they touted it. Let's see if it says anything on the box about it. No, actually not. Usually they kind of blast it everywhere on the box to say how many CDs it's on, just to show how cool it is. Huh. I'll be darned. Let's say anything in the blurb inside here. Because usually they say like, oh, 4 CDs or 3 CDs or whatever, but no. But yeah. Very FMV game, of course, at that point with that many CDs. That's to be expected. But yeah, it might be cool to check out at some point. I haven't played that many FMV games, so. And yeah, experience the musical world of Legacy of Time. Immerse yourself in the rich mystical sounds of the ancient civilizations of Atlantis, Shangri-La, and El Dorado. This incredible CD is not available in stores, so act now. But wait, there's more. Oh. DVD. Soon you'll be able to play the hottest new adventure game on the hottest new technology, digital versatile disc. Wow, I haven't seen DVD spelled out like that. Oh, Broderbund, yeah. So, of course, that kind of took care of, like we saw on the Tex Murphy Overseer that I had for the black computer build. I had a DVD version there, and the entire game then is on 1 DVD with better quality instead of being on 5 CDs with worse quality. So that tells you really how much space all of a sudden you got by going to DVD. I mean, we all know it. The DVD, of course, gives you way more space. So that's what happened. And that was kind of the change of the guard on the FMV side of games, being able to cram even more video at higher quality on there. Of course, then pretty quickly we went to FMV games fell out of favor after that, I would say. Just weren't that much interest in those kind of games. But yeah, Epic Time Travel Adventure is always here. She's coming up with her claws. There we go. Hi, cat. For those that I haven't seen before, this is my cat, Zoe. She is 14-year-old Calico mix something. And she doesn't come down here that often anymore because she's getting a little harder for her to move around now. So, but here she is. So that's the Janman Project, the Legacy of Time, which is the third in the series then. So now, of course, I want to collect the other ones. But I'm guessing some of these probably came bundled with some of the multimedia computers of the 90s. I'm going to have to take a wild guess. Like any of your Packard Bells and compacts and stuff like that, they bundle a lot of like multimedia CD-ROM games to show off what you could fit on there. So that I'm feeling that 1 and 2 was probably bundled with other computers. So, here's another one I never, ever thought to find in real life. I never would have expected it, and I've only played it here and there. It's near legendary for me, and that is Hired Guns for the Amiga. Hired Guns is a very late Amiga title. Has one of the best intro songs of all time. Look it up. Hired Guns has just a fantastic intro track. And it builds really, really well. And it's a game that actually requires, I believe, 1 meg of RAM. You have to have that to play this game. And it's actually a 4 split screen, like tactical FPS, and you can play it with 4 players as well, with 4 players using different control methods on one Amiga 500 or faster. And this is a Psygnosis title, and like many Psygnosis titles, they go very heavy on the graphics. It has really good graphics. The audiovisual presentation is amazing, but the gameplay is like, I think I played the beginning of that game many, many times. You basically select your squad. They have different strengths and weaknesses. And then you go into a mission. And the loading times are absurd because it's a very large game. It's a very late game for the Amiga in general, 1993. And once you get into the game, the gameplay is mostly just kind of clicking around really quickly, pushing the shoot button. It's kind of like a, it has more akin to the dungeon crawlers of that era, right? With a grid-based system, and you push the buttons, but it has like live fire. And your 4 characters can do different things in the game to work together or against each other, etc. Even as deathmatch, I believe. And this is one of those games that I never would expect to even remotely see a physical copy of. Not that I was looking for it, but I have so many fond memories of almost playing this. My friend's house would always like fire up this and listen to the theme music, load it forever, excuse me, getting into the game, and like seeing it. And I never expected like actually see a physical copy, nor did I ever see a physical copy back in the day because it was Amiga and everyone copied that floppy. So I had never even seen the physical box for this. But yeah, Amiga Force, highest score ever because it was a audiovisual tour de force for the Amiga for this era. But again, Psygnosis, they of course often went very heavy into the visual side of things and the audio. But yeah, the theme music, thanks for listening to Bluebeard, it is just fantastic. The way it builds up, awesome. And it uses the stereo. The Amiga has like 2 channels for each left and right side to great effect to create like an ambiance. But yeah, it has everything that's great about the Amiga tracker music. So I haven't even opened this yet. Of course, that's when you get to these boxes. They're a little older. They are a little more beat up usually. So, in interest of conservation, this inner carton is produced from recycled biodegradable material. We will never recycle this, but thanks for asking. The Amiga. Second. I have to mute there to cough. I'm still, as you can tell, not 100% through this dang cold that I've had. I was sick a few weeks ago here, and it just won't let go. Not fully, anyway. But Amiga just had a unique sound, a very unique, but that's mostly based from the custom sound chip that it had on board. And that's what gave the Amiga such a unique sound, and what's kind of like made the Amiga such a multimedia powerhouse for the mid-80s and on. Of course, it eventually got outgunned by EC and everything, but for a while there, Amiga was the one to have. Nope, I don't think so. It's just a really darn stubborn cold that I've gotten from my kids and everything from school, I'm sure. We have 4 discs. Remember, these are 720K floppies, right? So that's the era, and loading this game takes a long time, and is an exercise in patience because there's so many flipping discs. And this is not even the worst offender for the Amiga. Romance of the Three Kingdoms, I think, is like 7 floppies or more. Some games are even more. Because, I mean, it's math, right? 720K per floppy, and not a fast floppy drive either. So, takes a long time to load, but it is well worth the experience. I believe this is a code thing, probably. Copy protection. Don't copy this. I can't even open it, I'm curious. Yeah, this is, I believe, is a copy lookup, a copy protection to get into the game, right? You basically would have, the game would present you with something here, and you line it up and then find a number that is associated with it. So this is a hard copy protection that you might see them back in the day, which of course is a kind of relic of the past. But yeah, something you would need, or you need a cracked version and then bypass this. And that's what happened most of the time with these games, that they would get a crack that would bypass the copy protection altogether. But, you know, there it was. Countdown to Graveyard. Oh, this is a mercenary data file. So, for example, all the characters you can select are shown off here as mercenaries. And they have a little backstory and everything. It's got a very much like a tabletop RPG style to it. That's what it feels like. It has that kind of vibe. All the characters are pretty fleshed out and everything, and you can select them, and they have, again, different strengths and weaknesses in the game. But I will say, like many Psygnosis games, it has a lot leading into it. But then you start playing it, and it's like, oh, it's cool, I guess. Like Shadow the Beast. I love everything presentation-wise in that game. I don't really get a lot of enjoyment playing it, I guess. You know? It's kind of Psygnosis to me, but, I mean, of course, this game was something else. Man, we have a lot here, including the instructions for the Amiga. Just how to run the game. Look at that high-res screenshot. That is directly taken from a TV. I will guarantee you. Oh, yeah. We're going to go enhance on this blur here. Yeah, that is definitely, because look at the sharpness of the text. And then look at the, that is most definitely captured from a TV. Like, VCR level capture. Oof. Yeah. But, you know, what we're going to do back in the day. It's not like you could do direct capture in many cases. So, right, Zoe? And then it looks like we have the game manual itself. This is a pretty stacked box. And it's pretty heavy, actually, with these manuals in here. But, I don't know. The presentation of this felt like next gen, right? Even on Amiga, my friend had an Amiga 500 with a 1 megabyte RAM expansion. That's the only way you could play this game, I think. And it felt like next gen at the time. Like the music, the presentation, the visuals, they were super slick. And it was just something else. It felt like, again, next gen. So, Hired Guns, one that I never would have expected to see in the wild, let alone own a copy of it. And that's what caused me to run to that booth on Saturday morning. Let's see if I can close this without breaking everything in here. There we go. I had to run to that booth first thing on Saturday to like, hey, I want to buy some games from you. And there was no doubt I had to pick up Hired Guns because you don't see that many boxed Amiga games, I feel like. You do see some, but pretty rare at these events because, I mean, honestly, many of them haven't survived, right? They all break down and get lost to moldy basements and get torn to shreds from overuse. And this is actually in decent condition for the age. We're talking like, you know, yeah, this is 1993, so pretty late for the Amiga. But the fact that it's still in this good of a shape, even with some crumpling, you can see here, it's got a glossy look to it as well. And it's got a little bit of beat up around the edges and stuff, but you can't really ask for better for this kind of game because finding this and then being able to buy it alone is pretty rare. And I think this one goes for a pretty penny as well. Not because it's an amazing game or anything. It's just, you know, collectors, collectibles, and all that stuff. And that's where $15 for this, more than worth it for me. 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, absolutely not. And that's just my take on it. Maybe this is the one game you played a ton and you're super hyped about it and really want to own the box again, go for it. But I feel like a lot of these fringe games, if you will, were not, I won't say fringe, but just a little less known games perhaps weren't or aren't worth the money in my 2 cents anyway. But I can also say that sitting here holding it for a pretty cheap price. So I shouldn't talk too much about it. We have one big box game left, which we're getting very late in the big box games here now. And this is one of those, like, some of the games towards the end of the big box era were not found as big box versions. They were small box versions. Well, here's the big box version of Unreal Tournament 2003. Also, this one is a little interesting, very interesting, because to my knowledge, and here I have not done extensive research in this, this is a game that was small box, basically, in pretty much any region, except there was a Spanish version of this one, which is this. This is a Spanish version of the big box for Unreal Tournament 2003. And by 2003, we're not really seeing big box games at all, really. I mean, maybe some, but otherwise, pretty much all the games are small box or DVD cases now, especially in Europe. They were all DVD case by now. So it's pretty rare to see the big box. There are a few big box games that were released to some retailers in the US. Sam's Club, things like that. Have some of the big box late releases, like, Warcraft 3, for example, came out in Sam's Club and some of those big box stores or retailers. So it's pretty rare to find this kind of stuff. And clearly, the previous owner bought this specifically to get the big box version of it, and I was interested in passing it on. I'm not sure where he bought it. I didn't really ask, but based on the fact that it's Spanish, I assume this was either a Mexican release or maybe I assume this is Spanish. Yeah, Mexico. So this was the Mexico distribution version, which was then a big box version. And in every other region, to my knowledge, this was a small box. I do not know if there was a big box version of this released like Sam's Club or Costco or equivalent, because some of those did carry big box games longer than some of the competitors did. In this case here, this is a Spanish or Mexican released big box version of Unreal Tournament 2003. And that can be pretty rare then. It's pretty fun to have. And that's also another one that I saw on the pile there. Just seeing 2003 in big box, that's rare to begin with. And of course, Unreal Tournament is a fantastic game. All the versions. So having that on big box is really, really cool. And it is very crispy box, as you can tell. It looks pretty nice. A ring light there reflecting. Is one that I also was not expecting to find. But when I saw it, just had to beeline for that same booth and buy it there. So let's take a look inside. I don't think there's going to be any surprises in here. But to me, I know that I might have the small box for this. I'm not sure if I do or not. But this is, of course, what you'd expect in a small box. We get the big box version for it. And that's actually an interesting point, too, because when you look at listings, it's very easy to buy a small box by mistake. I've done it several times. You really got to look at, like, if they show a comparison shot. Okay, here, this is obvious. This is the big box version. If they show it where it's basically the same size as the dual case, then we know it is not the big box version. You can also look at the spacing on the logo sometimes to see. Let's see if I can grab another. Here's a small box version of Deus Ex, right? That's about for $1. And you can see it's tighter on the logos because they're squishing more stuff in, obviously. Especially on the back, you can really see how tight it is on the bottom here. The logos are very shrunk down compared to, you can tell they can fit. So that can be a equivalent. But I don't know that I have Unreal Tournament 2003. I thought I did, but maybe it's packed away. I could have sworn I did have it. Oh, there we go. I have 2004. But it still might be a valid comparison. So there you go. Unreal Tournament 2004, which I do not know if it was ever released on a big box version at all. But you can see the logos are completely crammed in. And you really see the difference in the spacing of everything, right? That can really help you determine, like, there's a lot more empty space around the characters on the box. And that's a good way to determine in a listing. If they're not showing the CD right next to it, that can be a good way. And I have bought small boxes by mistake several times. The one that I probably the most peeved about was Arcanum of Steamworks Magic Obscura, whatever. Great game. I grabbed the small box by mistake, but it was pretty cheap, so I shouldn't complain too much. I'll find the big one at some point. That's kind of how I collect big box games, is I just kind of keep my eye out whenever I am. And if something that really, piques my interest, I grab it, but I never really... There might be a few that I have in my head, like I will buy them immediately if I see them. But more often finding like kind of these like random ones that are not that, maybe not that collectible, or they might be collectible, but I'm not really looking for them, and then you might be pleasantly surprised, right? It actually has an advertisement for Unreal 2 The Awakening on the back here, which is pretty fun. That's the code too. Don't activate my Unreal Tournament 2003. Yeah, of course, it's entirely in Spanish, expected. That is the Mexican release. But, sometimes that's a neat thing to have, to be able to do a big box game like that normally wouldn't be a big box game. So it's neat to see that. And that's not something you find all the time. So, again, keep your ears and eyes open. You never really know what you're going to kind of run into. And, again, not a planned one, nor one that I even probably knew existed in a big box format. Someone can correct me, or someone can look it up if they want, but I don't know that if this one was ever released. Like, again, I have Warcraft 3, I think from like Sam's Club, which is the big version, and that one was mostly in small box in most retailers. But then some retailers, for example, the Frozen Throne box, for example, expansion pack, is very rare in big box format because it was sold in big box in some retailers, like those quote-unquote big box retailers, Sam's Club, Costco. And when we say big box, we don't mean big box PC. We mean big box as in bulk sale, right? Those are the ones that often carried those games as bigger games or boxes later, but not indefinitely. Sooner or later, they ran out to it and they didn't really care. So, really, really nice to have Unreal Tournament 2003. We'll go next to my Unreal Tournament 99, of course. But yeah, I think that pretty much is it for big box games for Unreal Tournament, because there was a 99, got the gold, 2003, and then probably not 2004, like Mike Boyk's saying there. I don't think there was one at all, because by then there was just 2004. There was really no one carrying big box games anymore. They're completely gone. At least there's a resurgence of that now, Christian, because you have like, your Ultra Kill, Bolt Gun, those kind of boomer shooters. And I hadn't thought about that too. Actually, I listened to a podcast discussing the boomer shooter name, and to me, it meant like boom explosion, but it really probably means that you're old and you're okay boomer shooter. Like, I didn't realize that. I feel even older. So, let's see where we're gonna look next. We'll do some random things that were random pickups that I grabbed as well. Here's a little nice thing from the 90s. I don't know why, but it was on the free pile, but the box was super crispy. And I love the design of the way things work. And this is like a, dual bundle with Pinball Science and the way things work. And I don't have any of the way things work software. And again, it was free, and it's this era of 486/early Pentium educational software, like the stuff that you run in Windows 95 or in Windows 3.11. I don't know, it has a certain vibe to it. And of course, this was published through DK Publishing as books as well, with how things work. And I thought it would be really fun to explore these again. I remember playing demos of these and not really getting that into it, but just, I don't know. It's a super cool box, and also the design, because again, the way things work is such a unique illustration, right? You can buy those books; they've been around forever, and it's a really neat thing to have as well, because I love the illustrations and everything. Drink time. Yeah, exactly. I think I remember seeing that in yeah, he does have that. This kid, I'm trying to teach you something. Stop and listen. Look at my mustache. It's super 90s. And yeah, that looks like a 90s teacher. He's probably famous, I'm guessing. I'm misrepresenting this. Maybe it is David Macaulay himself. Who knows? Terrible with that. But yeah, the way things work is a great set of illustrative works, and being able to use that on the software, it's got that very like, educational software vibe to it from the 90s, like the mid to late 90s, that you might find bundle on your, all-in-box computer that you bought from a local retailer, perhaps, or something you might get on a cover disc or something like that. I'm not sure how many people bought these directly, but in this case here, it's a dual bundle, and I have a feeling that was one of those that was, excuse me, bought probably by, parents who were hoping their kids would learn, or maybe grandparents. Oh, there we go. For their grandkids coming over to work on their PC or whatever. Oh, it comes with, look at this, like little, oh, look at that. It's a gift. This is for Mrs. Williams from the St. Lawrence Library. So I think St. Lawrence, Kansas. So this actually came from, it was probably a gift to a library. And unfortunately, they never used them. They're both sealed. Both of these are fully sealed. So it is a nice bundle, I guess, but it probably was never, yeah, from the Scholastic Club's fair. I think Clint from LJR has mentioned that several times, right? For a while, he was homeschooled, I think, right? So there was quite a lot of stuff that he would get this kind of software to learn things, which is why he's so big on edutainment software. And I have a feeling he probably has this same bundle, or if not something similar at least. It was a great way to educate kids at home and then also make them think they're having fun at the same time. But this can be really fun as an exploration thing, and it's something to do with the multimedia of the 90s. The menus were kind of extravagant and fancy. The illustrations were usually really cool, and there's something about that kind of Windows 3.11 style graphics, right? These were stickers then, looks like, from the Scholastic Book Fairs then. Yeah, from the Scholastic Book Fair. Which is something we didn't have in Scandinavia, at least growing up. I know it was something that happened in the U.S. here, where you could buy software like that, well, learn something about how things work, or pinball science. I'm curious about the new way things work, because I remember the books a lot. I think some of them were translated to Swedish, actually. We have equivalent ones that were kind of similar. But it's will be a really cool thing to explore. I'm excited to mess with this. Maybe have my kid and I go through it at the same time, or one of the kids, if they can grab themselves away from Fortnite. Get off my lawn. So, yeah, that's true. And now we have the internet to do that instead. But yeah, there was a time there where you could buy, encyclopedia and fit it on a CD, and you could buy that for home use. Let's see. Let's look at next. There's another one that was on the free pile, which is just completely random, but like mid-90s productivity software. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I don't know why, but it looks really, really cool. This is a terminal emulation software, which is Microcom Carbon Copy. Did I focus correctly? I think so. Frame here again. Is a communication software being used for Windows 3.11. And there's something about Windows 3.11 software. I don't know why. The DOS, Windows 95, or Windows 3.11 software. There's something special about these insanely huge boxes. Just thud. Oh yeah, and Card 95. That came with Mulemek. Yep, that's a very similar style to it, right? My Packard Bell, not Packard Bell, my AST came with Encarta 95 included, or was it my Compaq? I think it was my AST that came with Encarta 95. I did buy it loose later on, but I spent hours and hours and hours. I think there was 8 video clips on that whole CD, and I watched those over and over. It was the Hubble Spacewalk, it was Cheetah Running, and a couple other ones. I watched those over and over because it was so cool to see, like, video on your computer. And then I would just sit there and look up stuff all the time. I did use it as a reference a couple times writing essays in junior high. That dates me specifically. But what this is a remote access software. The idea being is that you basically have a host and then a guest computer. And I figured we'd try it at some point, just because why not? It's stupid and it was fun to try maybe. This is, of course, meant for the business traveler, so they can remote in and grab files and stuff. And I'm curious to see what you can do with this. I haven't decided if I'm just going to stream this or if I'll make a video on it. It's one of those, like, it will be fun to explore in a video, but it's worth the effort, I guess, if that makes sense. It would be fun to just maybe try it, kind of, quote-unquote live, me just filming the reaction of me using it versus doing a full research video on it. Maybe something like that. Because, yeah, now, like you're mentioning there, we have RDP, we have other really good remote control tools. And in this case here, specifically for, remote controlling your Windows 9, Windows 3.11 or DOS computer. And there's some cool things with it. Let's see. Features. Remote access to Windows or DOS applications over modem and LAN. You can control everything on your Office PC or LAN from anywhere. Remotely support Windows and DOS users over modems and LAN. Saves valuable time and travel expense. Transfer files. Access bulletin boards. Easiest to use. Graphics support. Supports Hercules. XGA. Ransom security. Chat utility. Copy paste. Remote clipboard. Looks pretty fully featured. And it also available as carbon copy for DOS. I guess this one is Windows specifically. So should we unbox it right now? Because it is sealed. This was on the free pile. It is completely sealed. And I just saw the box. I'm like, I just have to have it. So you know what? We're gonna live unbox it if I can find my scissors here. Maybe. Apparently I cannot. Figure this out. If I can open it. I'm not stickler for sealed. I'm not going to keep this unique software sealed. It doesn't really need to be kept sealed because, I mean, it's just regular business software. But it would be fun to explore and mess with. And that is effectively shrink wrapped. There we go. Live unboxing. And there's something that's just, to me, Windows 3.11 software specifically. There's something about that mid-90s, kind of like when it felt like everything was possible with PCs or computers as they were growing into their own role. That era, that early to mid-90s thing, where it felt like anything was possible with the computer. The things that you could do now, all of a sudden, you couldn't do before. And the graphical interface, there's something special about Windows 3.11. I don't know what it is, but just that kind of like what's on the horizon kind of thing going on. Maybe that's just me. I mean, Windows 95 is awesome too. Of course, I grew up with DOS and Windows, so that's my primary thing. Plenty of people, of course, are Mac users from that same era, which is awesome too. But it's just something with when the GUI started coming around, and like a computer felt so futuristic and cool stuff you can do. Yep, as usual for business software, you have a license agreement. As soon as you open that, you agree to it, and then that's it. We have the carbon copy registration. The open this diskette envelope evidences your agreement to the accompanying program license agreement. So now we've done it. Now we own the license. I can open this without tearing the whole paper apart. There we go. We have a glue coming through already. Carbon copy. For Windows version 2.5, setup disk 1 and 2. We have these set up. We have the quick reference, just like the quick setup dialog. Place your backup copy of the, it actually says to make a copy of the disk to save it. Install it. You can install it from DOS or Windows. Enter name of company name in your dialog box. Not straightforward. Very standard installation, it looks like. You can call and remote control, of course. File transfer, remote clipboard. It seems like it would be very useful, honestly. Chat to your convenience. I'll do a video on this. It'll be fun. And the manual is massive. Hefty. Which is to be expected. This is business software. You have to show everything. The remote clipboard. DOS host. Unload from memory. Of course, that's the problem with DOS, is that you have a memory restriction limitation. OS2 warp as well. We need to stream that sometime too. It's just funny because OS2 warp, I just haven't messed with it in years. Of course, it's kind of got a little bit of resurgence now. It feels like there's more fan users of it. It came on a cover disc on a magazine for me one time, the entire operating system. So, of course, I installed it, and then I got it running, and like, now what? I couldn't do anything with it, so I went back to Windows, but it's a really neat operating system, regardless. I mean, it was basically the future until Final 5 came in. Stole that throne and just sold like gangbusters. Yeah, looks like you can use it as a server clipboard. Accelerator keys to hop through. So, remote control software. I mean, it's not anything fancy. But it looks like a really sweet piece of software. And also the box, which is really cool. I mean, that accounts for half of it, right? New version 2.0, faster than ever. And the box is way bigger than it needs to be. It feels like something with business software from the 90s. The boxes were just absolutely chonkers. Always just big chonkers. I can close it again. Not for export, for use only in the US. If I can compare it here with... Here's that standard box of Unreal 2003. You can see the size difference is, you know, substantial to say the least. It's much heftier, thicker, heavier, bigger manual. All the above. That's just the way it is with business software, but that's why I love those ones too. I try and be a little restrictive on what I pick out for business software, because I mean, sooner or later you're never going to use it. So how much need do you have to have it? But I don't know. This box is really cool, and it was on the free pile. And this is the full version. Ooh, it runs on NetWare. Huzzah! I just couldn't say no to it. I walked it past several times, and I saw it on the free pile. I'm like, fine, I'll grab it. And other people were like chuckling at me because I think other people had the same idea. They were kind of thinking about it, but then someone else made that choice for you. There were several things on the free pile that I'm like, I kind of want to get it, but I kind of don't need it. And then I'll let the universe decide for me, and it was gone by the time I came back, and that can be a relief sometimes too. You don't feel the need to grab it. So, oh yeah, cool. I have a box copy as well. Fortunately, this one of the easier ones to find, I think, because there were a lot of them in circulation. I'm not sure how many of them sold, so there are quite a few. Now let's go to another thing on the free pile. We're getting into the hardware section now. With some hardware stuff. This, I think you probably saw in videos from other people at VCF. A lot of people grabbed this. They were basically, I think this may have come from Computer Reset even. It is the most generic possible serial mouse, and it's new in wrapping, and we're going to unwrap it here in a second. But clearly, it was just a huge overstock, and it feels so thin and flimsy. It has almost no weight to it. I do appreciate the packaging. Precision Instruments, and it looks super plasticky. It sounds very thin, and they just dumped like probably 20 of those on the free pile. And people were like, "Oh, serial mouse, why not?" And I just grabbed it. And it's one of those things like, do I need it? Need it? No. But at the same time, I don't have that many serial mice, so like it might come in handy. And this is new old stock, right? It's never been opened, but it looks like the most generic possible mouse you can even have at all, right? It's just so generic. Optical mechanical technology allows for precise and accurate movement. So I'm curious to see if this is a laser mouse or not. But it says optical mechanical. It can't be that now. It's just reading the rollers optically, I guess. And it's just, it's so like, I don't know. I have a soft spot for peripherals from the 90s. I love the Logitech boxes. You probably can hear, but I have several Logitech boxes over. Yeah, right here. Logitech mouse. There's the Wingman. There's the 3D Orb, whatever. I love the 90s Logitech software boxes, or the peripheral boxes, sorry. They just have a fantastic 90s style design to them. All the like the hand reaching towards the stuff and whatever. So yeah, this is not that, but it is just so generic. It's hilarious. High resolution. Microsoft. It has either misspelling or it is trying to avoid a trademark, but Microsoft. It is not Microsoft. And mouse systems switchable. So maybe I am misunderstanding that, but I have a feeling that it's got to be misspelled, right? Microsoft EM. Anyway, it just, you can't sell a mouse more than it being a mouse. And then you have a huge box like this that is clearly bigger than the mouse needed for the mouse. And I try and like fill the box to make it sell itself on the shelf, right? And that's what gets such ridiculous. Operating force, 150 G max. Is that like the force down, or is it doing like a 150 G turn in an airplane? Yeah, Microsoft. There we go. It's correctly spelled there. And they have to just add so much crap on here to make it sound cool or better than it actually is. Because it is, at the end of the day, just a standard mouse. So let's open this thing up and see. And the plastic is the worst kind of shrink wrap, too. It's really hard shrink wrap. Like that crispy shrink wrap and not the soft, malleable one. But it was a free mouse, so, you know, listen to that. Oh, compared to this, which is like nice and soft and whatever. So there's a quality in shrink wrap. There's the trick, right? There was no value to begin with, so we're all set. Can't divide with 0. There's nothing less than 0. Let's see what's in here now with this. We're doing 2 live unboxings today. Mouse. In case you were wondering. No, unfortunately, it doesn't smell like anything. It's just got that, yeah, that weird plastic thing. The mouse, however, itself, yes, it does smell. It's got that faint odor of ComputerSay / like any computer retailer from that era. That's glorious. It's got that that kind of whiff of like plastic and books and that kind of stuff. So yeah, there you go. With smell-o-vision. Oh goodness, the cord is actually yellowed in there. That's not a good sign. This warranty registration card is enormous. Why would that be such a big thing? We have the manual for mouse manual. It's a mouse. The mouse. It's a lot. Oh, any adapters? Does it include an adapter? I don't think so. Maybe it will. Nope. No adapters for us. You could buy adapters or use adapters, of course. Yeah, we have the software on a 525 floppy. Oh, floppy. Mouse driver and menu maker. Turn off your computer. Plug mouse in. Load mouse driver typing a mouse. It is a mouse. I can confirm it is a mouse. And looking at, I cannot convey how cheap this plastic looks and is. I cannot possibly convey how, this is actually melted in here. So this must have been stored somewhere hot. That's the wire is actually melted into the part there. So yeah. The cable is not white. This paper isn't even white. But you can definitely see, this is more like an off-white. It's kind of like the American Psycho white scenario going on there. But you can see how much the cable is yellowed. The holes aren't even. What? This is some quality mouse here. Yeah, so the cable itself has, of course, yellowed or probably heat. Something has happened to it because the plastic looks super cheap. It's got that, like... Yeah, it is just the cheapest possible. The click is pretty nice. Not sure if you can hear the click. Probably not, but the click is not bad. But the mouse feels, the plastic itself feels, you know, the glossy. Yeah, it's like it's evolved from yellow to browning. Look at that. It even has a transport lock here for the ball. Had a little foam protection. Although, here is a fresh, unsullied mouse ball still. Oh, the plastic is like it feels like, you know, 80s like Burger King toy. The mouse is tiny too. I mean, it is clearly a budget mouse. But yes, the ball is fresh. We also have a switch here that goes between the PC3 key and MS2 key. A mechanical switch here that actually switches the switching of the switch. The function of the mouse. I mean, again, it was a free in the free pile. So are you going to complain too much? No, probably not. Because if you saw a free serial mouse, which we'll get to in a minute, I'm probably bound to grab it because, you know, when you need a serial mouse, especially for an older computer, an older IBM-compatible PC or something, it's pretty handy to have. And I have a couple, but not a ton, and I'm knowing that sooner or later they might break down. This might work well on like a Tandy or something like that, as an optional small mouse. So it has its uses for a serial mouse. It's not something you maybe run out and get, but when you need one, you need one. But that is a new old stock mouse then with the Brownie. You can see it's almost the same as this bull here. We're going to put that back in the box, and we're going to let it live in there for now. It's a cheap mouse. And that's what's so intriguing with some of these from this era, where you had just this huge box to try and get like a store presence, where the box probably cost more than the mouse to manufacture. But something that's easily forgotten now in the day of digital distribution is that your advertising space in stores was kind of directly correlating to your box, right? That's why we got those crazy boxes like we showed earlier with the Spectre VR, right? That stood out. It stood out because it was a different type of box. It's something that you may not have expected to see, so it stood out among all the standard boxes. And that was a way to sell the game or sell the product. So having more box space or real estate in the store was enough to draw your eye to it, even though the mouse itself is very, very poor. Probably. I haven't tried it, of course. But it's a new old stock, free. Not going to complain too much. A lot of people grabbed one because they all had the same idea. They saw that box like, well, it's a free mouse. I'm going to grab it. Why not? So let's continue our journey. We're going to get into some different interesting things there as well. And speaking of mice, I did find a few more. I'm not going to spend too much time on this here, but here's the standard Microsoft IntelliMouse with the Gateway logo on it. That was also on the free pile. Figured, why not? This one clearly has to see some love and use, but it seems to be clicky. The ball or the wheel has not turned gummy. Still seems to be fine, although the mouse itself is pretty yellowed. I figure why not? I'm always a fan of the IntelliMouse, one of my favorite mice of all time, and one of those. It's a Gateway one. It might fit if I'm ever making a video on a Gateway computer. It might fit with that too. So, spend too much time. It's a Gateway PS2 mouse. This one jogged a weird memory. It is another PS2 mouse. I grabbed that, but it is the Microsoft mouse. And I remember seeing this in magazines that sold like computer parts. The mouse button is a house. That was kind of their advertising thing of the Microsoft Home initiative and everything. And it just, when I saw this on the free pile as well, not only is it just like a PS or a serial mouse, which can again come in handy. Now I have 2 new serial mice. But the design and the look and everything immediately was like, I remember that. The color, I remember seeing that in magazines. Or so my dad my mom and dad had a small business, and they would get like catalogs for buying hardware, software for businesses. And this one was one of the ones I always remember seeing in there with the Microsoft Home. Someone correct me, but I think it was like an initiative to make a Microsoft, excuse me, to make it like a central page, like almost like Packard Bell's Navigator, right? So, yeah, that took... Ian, don't feel bad. I did not realize that until actually fairly recently, too, that it's actually a house. And Microsoft got me with that. But it's like, you're right. My first memory of it was just that it jogged a memory. It's just like, hang on, I remember this mouse. Like, it really seems familiar. But sure enough, the whole ploy, I assume, I mean, maybe I'm off the mark here, but assume is the idea to have a shape as a house and be home. So, but I remember seeing the buttons, thinking when I was a kid, it's like, well, this is weird. Why do they have that shape? But then, like, yeah, it must be that it looks like a house. I mean, that's the whole point. Because otherwise, it is a very, very odd shape with the mouse being kind of like this jutting out shape here at the end that makes no sense. But yeah, it is I think that's right. I could be completely off there. But yeah, there you go. There's a Microsoft Home mouse as well. And the color is so unique, too. I like that. It's kind of like a more blue British racing green, And that's the thing. It stood out, and I flipped through those business catalogs so much, so much, that I just like, you're right, it is a chimney, isn't it? Yeah, it's a very iconic mouse to me, and that's why it like, I didn't notice that either. Thanks for noticing. Wow, yeah, they really knocked it out of the park on the design. Look at that, and the smoke coming out of it. Touche, design team, touche. They really knocked it out of the park there on that one. It's one of those like, well, like it's super static. It sticks to everything. Plastic. So yeah, it's very iconic to me. The same way it, for me at least, jogs memory, like the 3 buttons mice a Logitech had in the mid-90s. It had kind of like a matte, soft texture, that kind of stuff. And those, I remember flipping through those business catalogs over and over, dreaming of buying peripherals that I never needed or had any use for, but they all looked so cool. And that's what I spent a lot of time, because I only had so many magazines, and then my dad would like chuck the latest like business software catalog or whatever at me, and I would just flip through them and looking at monitors, printers, computers, business software, CorelDRAW, that kind of stuff, and booking software I would never need, a spreadsheet software that I would never need, but it looked cool, and the presentation of it looked really cool. And it was directly intended to sell to businesses. I was not the target audience, but I love those catalogs anyway, so I spent a lot of time looking through them. Definitely remember seeing the Microsoft Home one, but yeah, that's pretty genius. It's a red brick chimney. Man. DIL, I guess. Learn something a little bit new every single day. Let's look at another product here. And this one is actually, we're going to go to the close-up cam on this one. This is a TTL adapter for the classic Macintoshes from Ron of Ron's Computer Labs. Ron's Computer Lab. Check out his channel. Great guy as well. To say that I can call Ron my friend if this would autofocus. I'm not being his friend now, but not. There we go. This is actually an adapter, basically lets you hook into the video signal of a Macintosh Classic, and then you can output that into a VGA connector on the back of the case. So it lets you basically capture or output dual video on your classic Macintosh. So it's basically like a video out adapter with some logic built in there. And it has, multiple things on here. Let's go to the close-up cam. Let's try this here. Close-up cam engaged. There you go. There's Ron. If we can show this here now. Hard to capture that, but you basically have the video signal there. Unfortunately, it's blurry. That can be useful. You basically have you can solder in the different video signals. I'm not going to use that too much. It doesn't work too well. Let's go back to the regular view here. You can see how it auto switches the view, which is really useful. But it's basically a video adapter that lets you use classic Macs and basically have the video on the internal board at the same, or the CRT at the same time as you're outputting it. The Mac 2 CI that I happen to have, for example, that one has video out, so you can capture that and do whatever. But in the case of the classic Macs, none of them have, and we're talking about the Mac SE, the SE30, the Plus, those that are all-in-ones. They do not have a native video out at all. Like, if you just get the video that you get. And you can solder in different solutions, and this one is a really cool one because it basically lets you connect in and do this reversible mod, more or less, to have VGA out. So I'm probably going to do that to my Mac SE at some point, just to be able to capture directly from it. That's really handy from a content creation perspective and also streaming, right? You could stream on it and also capture the video in very crispy out. You will need an adapter additionally then, because the TTL video that you get out of this is not compatible with the VGA standard, so you'll need to adapt it. Kind of like a RGB adapter. I think I can use, I have the one I use for my Tandy, I think would work for that. Also, the data path capture card is very versatile, so it can handle some of that stuff. But also picked it up from Ron, and that's the same thing with Ian here, having the PicoGus, is that you have a lot of cool creators that have designed modern solutions for vintage gear that can be really useful or handy. In this case here, being a video out solution for a classic Mac. that somewhat existed before, but not in such a quote-unquote turnkey solution. So thank you, Ron, for that. I bought that from him. Supporting the creators is always good. Check out his channel as well. I'm just going to go through a couple of quick things. Because I saw this on the free pile as well, which is just like a standard like drive kit. The drive was not, a different drive was in here, but there was a couple other goodies in there actually too. And I have been realizing I'm running low on CD-ROM drives, which is one of those things like you just build computers and you're messing with different projects, hand off machines, and I'm like, I didn't have a whole bunch of drives before, and all of a sudden you realize I don't have a whole bunch of drives anymore. So that's when I started like realizing I should just grab a few drives while I'm there. And this one was then, it looked like a new in box, or a new old stock. This drive is not in here itself, but there was another drive in there. So I just grabbed this and had another goodie in there too, which we'll look at in a second. And it's always worth a look in those boxes. You never know what you're going to find. So first off, I grabbed we'll do it this way. See if I can focus on this here. This is kind of like an HP, well, CD Writer Plus, and it's also kind of like an iconic reader or writer, and it just happened to be on the free pile. Had to grab that because this is a read and write. Let's see, focus on it. There we go. It's a standard CD writer from that era, but if I were to build or have a gray computer, it would fit very well. So I saw it and I'm like, I should grab it because you never know what might come in handy. Nothing else, having a CD writer from that era can be really useful. And that was a nice one to have. This one is extremely yellowed. I think that's what was in that box. And again, probably not something I'll use. I might try and retrobrite it because you can retrobrite the whole face here now. And this is the most generic possible CD writer or CD reader. But that can come in handy as well. Those are the ones I've been running out of. And I'm sure this was a generic one that was in an actual machine, not one that was bought aftermarket, because usually the aftermarket ones, at least in my opinion, often touted the speed and were trying to sell the product versus something that came integrated. They didn't need to do that, so they're pretty generic. OEM, if you will. Another one that's also the most generic possible, it's a CD writer. You're a CD writer, Harry. That's about, it just copies. It's just a black writer. But it's like, I don't know, the text caught me. And again, it was on the free pile, so I'm like, I'm going to have to grab that because it just says CD writer. And I guess I need a CD writer, so here we are. I don't know the speed or specs on it. Looks like, let's see, manufactured October 2002. Ultima Electronics Corporation. I'd never heard of it, but just, it's a CD writer. Get me the CD writer, and that's the one. And here is a light-on one, which, of course, that's a more known brand. This is a DVD-ROM, also can be useful for that time. Late 90s, you know, kind of computer where DVDs were coming around more. And it just, again, it's a generic DVD-ROM, but it can also be handy. And I just wanted to kind of stock up a little bit on some of these drives because you can find them for a couple bucks at these events, but often the free pile have stuff like that coming and going all the time. People are like, they probably aren't hunting for that, but it can be a useful place to pick up kind of the things you might use a lot, right? Maybe things that aren't worth buying on eBay, things like that, because the shipping is going to be expensive. So these places are a great place for stocking up on that kind of gear, where I was running out of drives, literally, and I just needed a few more for different projects. So I grabbed a few of those. Get into a few different projects or from different things too. I'll show this thing first. We're going to go a little faster, and I'm getting a lot of small stuff. This is a power adapter for a Macintosh LC model. It basically, if you solder this in, it lets you connect a ATX power supply into powering an LC. And I don't have an LC, but Tom Barber, great friend as well, which I run into at VCF several times. Follow him on Twitter and find him in random social spaces. He gave this to me as a kind of like a demo, if you will. And it's just a power adapter, power converter, so you can power your LC without having to use old power supplies. I'm going to guess the LCs probably, a lot of them have power supplies that are going out. And I think you can find that from Tom barber. I forget his website now, but you can buy these. Basically, look up, let's see, it's Mac TXLC. Mac TXLC is probably what you want to look up. Yeah, it works with Mac, LC, LC2, LC3, and derivatives. Y2 compliant, it says. So yeah, it's a nice little adapter. It's very simple in its design, but it does probably exactly what it needs to do, which is to be a power adapter for an LC. And it's probably one machine I'll pick up at some point. I'm not a Mac collector, but it's one of those, like, it's fun to build in the gaps you might have in your collection. I got quite a few Macs now, and I don't need like every single model, but it's fun to have some of the ones from different years so you can kind of cover the big range. The same way you might have a DOS machine, a 98 machine, a Windows 2000, whatever you might have, right, to fill those gaps. So a handy one that we'll have in the future probably, because that's the thing too. Between like hard drives being a problem, the next thing, or the most pressing one, is probably power supplies. And many of these computers, they have gone, or in some cases they're dangerous to the machine. Like for Commodore 64, they can actually take out the entire machine and blow it up. So you got to be a little careful with that kind of stuff, and probably try and use an aftermarket. But we have a cornucopia of different aftermarket solutions now for power supplies for retro computers, which is awesome. You almost always have some choice. Sure, if it's ATX, then you're pretty much set. You can buy a new power supply, but a lot of them have older ones. Like in this case here, we have a transformer, right? You can probably buy a really compact ATX power supply, or a micro ATX power supply, and cram it in, and it's enough to power the LC, and it will probably run great compared to the old one. So that's a cool one to have. So thank you very much, Tom. I need that one. Have some stuff here. I'm going to go through some of these here fairly quickly, but same way I said earlier about CD-ROM drives, the same way I grabbed a couple of network cards that were on the pile for free. I love networking my retro computers. These are just a couple random generic PCI network cards. These are Realtek-based ones. This one's MPX, I guess. Nothing exciting, but I use that for everything. Oh yeah, definitely get the Blue SCSI. Joe's Computer Museum is a great place to buy those. You can buy them in kits form, or you can get them completely completed. He has several for sale. I think he had a Black Friday sale too, honestly, if you want to check that out. But Joe's Computer Museum, he sells and manufactures those. The Blue SCSI device is amazing. It really is, for me, the best choice. And not that I've used all of them, but the Blue SCSI project is so cool. Eric Helgerson is an awesome guy too, and the creator of the project. But it is a great one to use for pretty much any vintage Mac of that generation, because it just works. I mean, you guys saw it when I used it on the Power Mac, or not the Power Mac, the 7200. I can't remember now. I'm so bad with Mac names, but it is a great project. It works so awesome. They keep adding features to it too. So yeah, a couple of generic network cards. That's always handy for me. Very useful. One thing that was in that box with the drive was this golden sound card, and I'm not sure what actually it is. I think it's a Sound Blaster Pro clone from the Golden Company. Actually, it's from Top Tech Microcomputer Incorporated, 1994. Yeah, this is, let's see if I can do a zoom here on this. Walk on there. There we go. But yeah, this is just a golden sound card. It just looks like a kind of generic ISA sound card. And I think it is a Sound Blaster Pro clone of some variety. But it looks like a good one to have. So it was just in that box with the DVD drive, and I can't really complain to a free sound card. So I kind of picked up the box, and like, the weight doesn't seem right for just a single drive. And sure enough, in there was the audio cable plus this. And I'm curious to check this out. I'm not expecting any miracles from sound, but I mean, it's a nice sound card, and those always come in handy. Like most of you probably know by now, I'm not always looking for the best of the best with stuff. It's fun to re-experience it. Like when you're playing an old game from the 90s, when you were playing it as a kid, you probably didn't have an MT32 or a sound canvas. You were listening to it on whatever generic crap clone thing you had in your Packard Bell, And that's nostalgic for me now. So it's a great way to experience a lot of these games from that era, is to cram in something generic like this, which is probably like OEM manufactured, and this might be the retail version of the OEM that came included with other machines. But yeah, Top Tech Golden Sound Card. I'll check it out at some point, but I just have a feeling it sounds like pretty generic Sound Blaster clone thing. Probably nothing super exciting, but it's a sound card. It's a nice sound card. Can't really say no to those. Those are always unique and interesting. So that was that. That was the sound card. And I grabbed a ripe one here now. This is... Sure, yeah. This is just a TNT Vanta 64. Sorry, TNT M64. The most generic OEM, hated by many video card, but it is one of the slower AGP cards. It's not going to be a fantastic performance thing, and many people probably stuck with that in their pre-built machine that they had at home, that you had to use this card. And it's not really a good card on that level, but it's still an AGP TNT2 card. And if you put it on a machine, an earlier AGP machine, it's probably going to be pretty powerful for what it is. But it's also a handy card to have. And yeah, exactly. Very popular with the Dells. It's a handy card to have, and for comparison's sake too. And it was on the free pile and just nabbed it. I would probably not go out and buy a M64 card, but it has its uses. So, like, yeah, you guys have listed several there now. They're good for testing. Comparison, just be able to throw it in as a card. And it's a nice one to have in a toolbox. Not that you're going to collect, but I feel like these M64 and the MX cards, you're going to run into just by the virtue of being in this hobby. You'll find a machine that has it. Someone will just drop it in a box on your lap. I mean, it's just, they just appear. Excuse me. And that's what happened here in this case. Here, this card is just on the free pile and just happened to grab it. It's like, why not? I saw what it was, and it's not one I would go out and buy. But again, useful for testing, interesting to have maybe for some certain scenarios. The most generic video card from that era you can imagine, and not a performer. Because I was using the TNT2 line and the name, people were a little cheated with that because the M64 one was definitely a cost-reduced version of it that doesn't remotely hit the performance a lot of the other TNT2 cards. But it's a video card. It's an AGP video card. I haven't met many of those I don't like too much. This one I think is a little more interesting. This is a Intel video card. Their latest one before they return to the market with their ARC series of cards here. This is an i740 and an 8 megabyte AGP video card. And much has been covered on this one. I just didn't have it in my stable to have a i740 available for testing. Yep, exactly. And it's a nice one to have because I like to use it for comparison's sake sometimes. It'll be fun to cover it or play with it. Maybe we can stream on it sometime. GPU June is going to be here before we know it. It'll be fun to stream on that and test with it. It's, you know, it's not a competitive card in that sense, but it's still a neat one to say the least. It's like Intel's last foray into dedicated GPUs before they bowed out of that for decades, right? And it can be powerful and a cool card, and a neat one of that. And it's not a bad card per se, but a lot of the competitors were really good around this time period too. You have the Riva cards really coming into their own. You know, Voodoo was just killing it in this era too. It was hard to compete, and it never got as far as they wanted to. Hell, like an S3 Savage 4 is probably better than this card in general in most cases, in almost all cases. This is kind of one generation before, kind of like the Riva 128 almost. But it's still a neat card to have. I think it's useful to have for comparison's sake. Excuse me, I can get rid of that cold. And it's a card that I really have had an eye out for. And here, I got it for $5 at the VCF Midwest. Can't argue with that. I'll take it. Because in some cases, I might need it for comparison, or just for messing around with this fun. So that makes this card one that I was looking for. Not one I was willing to spend a lot for, but finding that kind of stuff there, of course, saves on shipping. And, you know, I don't think this card is worth a lot, but being able to buy it right there, money changes hand, you're done. And that's really good. That was just towards the end of the event, and I'm like, hey, what do you want for this one? What are you offering? And I'm like, $5? And he's like, sure. So that was it. Now we're done, you know. And for them, it's one less thing they have to bring back. And it's not a expensive or amazing card, but I think it's still really useful to have. So I'm looking forward to testing it because I'm starting to get a little interested in those quirky cards. Like I did the video on the S3 Savage 4, and that was fun. I like that card quite a bit. One that I would like to really get my hands on is a G400 Max from Matrox. And those are getting really hard to find now because people kind of know what they are, and it's a top-tier Matrox card, basically, from that era. I didn't see any. I saw one Voodoo 3000 or 1000, and it was like 140 or something. I mean, it's just, yeah. That's Voodoo on it. It's going to go for an absurd price, even at that kind of place. This has pretty low value, but the Voodoo cards are so recognizable. They get priced accordingly. And the ones that were, you know, maybe good deals probably were gone right away. There probably were some, but people were there scoping around the night before making deals, right? So, and in some cases, like, I'll show you the next card, which I'm very happy that I found, which is another AGP video card. I'll show you in a second. And we'll show you how you can be on the other side of that and get a really good deal. You got to be at the right time at the right place. So, this may be probably my favorite pickup of this whole lot. So I'll show that here now, which is another AGP video card. Let's see if anyone recognizes this card. Any takers on what card this is? Anyone recognize it? I mean, clearly it's a Radeon, right? It's an ATI card. Any takers? Yeah, the Voodoo Banshee and the Rush, I think, is probably worth quite a bit. Yes, this is Radeon 9800 Pro, but the 9800 Pro, oh, what's special about it? It's not for PC. This is the Radeon 9800 Pro Mac Edition, 256 megabytes. Basically the god level card for that era of Macintoshes. And paid $5 for it. And it's worth a lot more than that. But it's not worth that much to me. I just would not spend the real market value for that. However, I have a Mirador G4 that this card is destined for. This card is going to be perfect for playing all those Mac games I showed earlier. The Sacrifice, Heavy Metal, any of those things. The Radeon 9800 Pro Mac Edition is pretty rare. This is what looks like to be the retail version, too. Ooh, the 9700 Pro is a really good card, too. We do stream with that quite a bit. Excuse me. I'm not sure. It might be that it was recapped, or it might mean that it needs to be recapped. Either way, very possible it was, or they tested it. And it may not even work. And maybe it needs to be recapped. Maybe it's a dead card. I don't know. But it's worth giving it a try, right? Because the 9800 Pro is a fantastic card. And you can certainly reflash a 9800 Pro PC to the Mac Edition, but it feels kind of like, I don't want to say waste, it's kind of a harsh word to say, but I feel the 9800 Pro is such a great card for a early 2000s PC. I hate to kind of use one for a Mac. So when you run into a Mac one specifically, that's really, really nice. And I haven't tested it yet, of course. That's the thing. They're very expensive because it's kind of the top tier. I don't know if that's the best Mac video card AGP that you're going to find, but at least for the G4s, I think it's hard to get anything stronger that's going to work on those machines. Now, this one does not have the ADC ports on it. You're going to have to use an adapter for that or an extra power connector to power an ADC monitor, for example. But this is a fantastic fit for a G4 tower that can support it. Now, power supply, it has extra power and everything. But the 256 meg version, even then, is the top one, and it's rare to find that. But yeah, the jury's out if this actually works or not. But for that price, I mean, it's a no-brainer. I basically got to that same booth with all the Mac software, and he had a stack of hardware as well, just like cards and stuff. I started rifling through there and see what I could find, and I saw the red in an anesthetic bag, and like, I knew anything red with a Mac would be a Radeon card, and most of them might be like a 9000 or whatever. But then seeing the 9800 on it, and then seeing that this is the Mac edition too, there was no hesitation. I picked it up right away and grabbed it. So there were other cards in there too. Most of them didn't look that interesting, but I already spent quite a bit at that point. I didn't want to spend too much more. But the gentleman just wanted to get rid of it, and he's like, yeah, just whatever. So I grabbed that, and I'm trying to remember what else I grabbed, just some small stuff or something for... What else did I grab from there? Like anything from that pile? The card and the games. Ended up at like $25-30 or something like that for all of it, including the card. You can't really argue with that. So I'm curious to see if this works. That is a good call out, the fact that it has Sharpies on the caps. It might be that they tested them or they recapped them. I don't see any... They're all SM... It could have been recapped. Yeah, I think it has. Let's go to the close-up camera, because this might actually be useful in this case here. So let's see. I think this is where those spots are. There is a film there. Not sure if that's visible or not. There you go. You can see in the top right corner how it's kind of like rougher there. So I have a feeling someone probably used isopropyl alcohol to clean it there, right? That'd be my guess. It does not look like these were resoldered unless they were really good at resoldering those. Those look like the factory. Probably. These are some of the caps here, right there. This actually camera is actually pretty handy. Be able to do this close up like this pretty quickly. Yeah, exactly. So they were probably cleaned, or worst case scenario, they leaked, because there is definitely some residue. That could be just the remnant of the residue from the factory too, right? That's very possible. Unless some cap leaked here or something, there's that possibility. Yeah, otherwise it looks, I mean, all the solder joints look factory. Now, of course, I can't do that on the cap here, right? But there's no bulging or anything, so there you go, ATI. Got dust in there, but this is actually pretty good for this camera, for this purpose. But yeah, we'll have to see. And caps are marked, so they could just be tested. None of them look to be bulging, so we'll have to see. Yeah, the camera is actually pretty handy for this kind of thing. Being able to move it back and forth like this without having to do a big fuss or changing settings has been really useful. So I'll have to throw that into my quick review of it. So for the full disclosure then, basically, BenQ sent me the webcam that we're using right now. And one thing that I've been looking for is the webcam I had before. I couldn't do this very easily, like take it off and move it around and stuff. Being able to do this on the fly, including the zoom thing, is actually pretty handy. And this is basically my new action cam. So in exchange, of course, they want a video review on it, as that kind of thing, how these things work. So I'm going to do that next here, basically. Just kind of my thoughts on it. It won't be a very structured review, but yeah. Anyway, it looks basically like it has been untouched, maybe besides testing the caps. There you go. Touche, Guitarist. I was thinking for a second, like, it is an excellent product. It's like, yes, it is an excellent product. You can quote me on that. There you go. That's all I have to say about it. It's an excellent product. One line review. So this, of course, is a kind of like, I wouldn't say a grail find, but I have thought and kicked around for a long time what I was going to put in my mirror door Macintosh, because I wanted something to be more powerful. I wanted it to be an OS X machine. It is a dual Xeon, or Xenon, whatever, 1 gigahertz. So it's a very powerful machine. And I wanted that to be my good OS X or 10 machine, whatever, late 90s, early 2000s gaming rig, right, for those kind of games that we had earlier. And I've kicked myself for a while, like, what should I use for a video card? Because I don't want to spend a fortune getting a card, because the Radeon 9800 Pro came up several times in recommendations, but it's not worth it for the market price. $5, if it works, absolutely. Even if it doesn't work, I guess it's just neat to have. And then a recap is that in the future for this card if it doesn't work, for sure, because it's worth trying to save. Now, the GPU could be bad too. We know that these cards have problem with the shim and the self-cooking and that kind of stuff, so that is an issue too. We could try and reshim it. I know that's a thing you can try. So there are some things to do to try and save the card if it doesn't work, but it might. Who knows? I don't know. For $5, I will happily take that risk and try it, because if it does work, then the Mirador will have a fantastic companion here pretty soon. So, I mean, Dr. Dave, welcome. Yeah, that's true. It could be as well. You, Dr. Dave, I've met as well before at VCF Midwest, a great guy at his channel for sure. But you do a lot more recapping and soldering projects than I do, so that's a good point. Might be worth thinking about that too. But yeah, so we'll see if we can save this card. Maybe it works right off the bat, maybe not. A lot of these 9700, 9800 Pro cards definitely have their issues when you get a working one. I do have a 9800 Pro as well, Windows version, or Mac, sorry, PC version. And that runs great. It's a very strong card for what it is. So this is a great one to have, and I'm excited to test it in the Mirador. We can play some Mac games. Let's see what we have next here now. Wow. Getting to the bottom here, that was pretty much the bulk of it. So we have some small stuff and bigger stuff too remaining. We'll take a look at, but then we're heading towards the end here. We'll see if we run out through the normal 3 hours. It might be a little shorter stream tonight. As we run out of stuff here now, I might hook up one of the things we're going to look at next here soon. But Geek and Spiel was there. Geek and Spiel is the premier maker of case badges. Definitely check out his website, geekandspiel.com. Or is it geekandspiel? Remember. But he was selling some like unique. Get the case badges. If you want case badges, you've probably seen his store online. LGR uses him as well. You've probably seen many of his case badges. And he was selling basically these unique case badges for the event that were only purchasable at the event. You can also win them on his Twitter here recently. Geek and Spiel or Steve Cooper, great guy. He follows the channel, friend of the channel for sure. Check out his website. But yeah, he makes these really, really cool badges. And some of these, I guess I'll use the camera again. Whoa, it's coming in handy all the time. It is an excellent product. These case badges basically have the look of the on focus. You can do it. Autofocus. Maybe. There we go. That's the actual event center. And that's, of course, the Windy City itself. And a really cool logo there. But there were unique case badges done for the event that kind of commemorate the actual event itself. But yeah, Steve is a great guy. And usually if you buy case badges today, you're more likely than not to run into his case badges because they are kind of become the premier provider. He did have a booth there, and he usually has a booth every time at these events. A great guy. Oh, sorry, I missed getting those, but I think he was letting people win them on Twitter, right? I'm pretty sure just recently. Maybe not, but super boring thing. Floppy drive cable. I realized I was running low. It was on the free pile. I grabbed one. Floppy drive cable. Moving on. That's not super exciting. It's a floppy drive cable. That's where those VCF things are really cool because you can find that kind of stuff to kind of build up your stock, if you will, right? So let's take a look at something. I don't know quite how to get this in frame here. We might have to get creative here now to see how we're going to show this. I'm going to grab one thing. This is heavy. You flip it. There we go. We're going to use this here now. This is an IBM 300GL. It's kind of like these Aptivas. I'm trying to get the camera here correct now. It's going to be a little hard with the angle because it's so huge. But this is just one of those like kind of generic office machines. This is the Celeron. So nothing super exciting. But I also love the design of it. And we might try and boost this a little bit. You can only go so far since this is a Celeron. I think 533 might be the max you can put in here. But I don't know. It's a desktop PC, you know, goes on your desk, pretty generic office machine. I did get the keyboard as well. But it's a, you know, they make these in Pentium 3 and they're faster. But this was very much like a business workhorse, and it can be fun to mess with this. It is not super exciting inside. We can take a look on the inside, actually, with this camera now. Let's see if we can get that going. If I can fit it here. It's a honking machine. I'm going to try and open it here. Here. It smells a little musty in here. It definitely need to be cleaned up and everything. But we do have a Celeron processor in here. We'll just use this here to do a for here instead. We do have a Celeron processor here on a slot. And the problem with this one is that I think a bus speed is 66 megahertz, so that limits how much you can do with this thing. I'm pretty sure it's definitely more of a you know, work machine. You can see it definitely has some rust going, but it's got serial ports up the wazoo. There's tons of extra ports. You can see the camera here now too. This is what the Idea Cam looks like. You can see it in action here. Yeah, it looks like it. So that has the Celeron, and it actually looks like the it was zip tied. I wonder if that's from factory or not, but you're right. That's a good call out. That is a slot kit adapter. And it might have been from the factory. I mean, the Celeron chips were pretty cheap. And you could, in theory, like, this can be boosted a lot with a right level of Celeron, but I think that from what I've seen on this one, it tops out at 533. That's pretty much as far as you're going to get on this. So this is not going to be a speed monster, but it might be an interesting machine anyway. But it looks like it has ISA and PCI slots. So this might make a really good, powerful DOS machine / Windows 95 more than a gaming powerhouse for Windows 98 titles. And that kind of limits it a little bit, but it also might make it interesting as well. Yeah, we have a riser here, which then includes the ISA and PCI slots. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this machine forever, but it might be fun to mess around with it and then pass it on. I think DOS might be a good choice for this machine. We do have a sound card, or that's at least a modem there, with either a line in. I'm not even sure if it has a sound card right now. It was clearly like just a business desktop machine, right? Most of these were used for that kind of stuff, especially the Celerons. The Pentium 3 ones of these might be more interesting, but it's still like, I just like the design. I don't know exactly what's in here now. I haven't tested it yet, but it has a slot kit adapter, and the CPU is hidden behind there. We could try and boot it, just to take a look. And yeah, that's the thing too. For DOS, it will be powerful. Ideally, you throw in a PCI. You could throw in a PCI like a Riva TNT or a Voodoo 3000 if you're so inclined. That might be a little overkill, honestly. Or a something like that, but something that's not AGP, right? Because that doesn't have AGP. But then you're limited on how powerful it is. So you're kind of hamstringing that machine in that sense by doing that. So it's an interesting one to mess with. And I don't know that it's going to be like a very powerful whatever. So, but we can boot it and take a look and see what's on here. Well, I have to hook it up and switch cameras and do a whole bunch of funky stuff. But that is anyway a Aptiva here now, the 300GL. So yeah, not a powerful one. However, before we mess around, put the case back on. I don't know if these have been wiped. I think the hard drive is still in here, so it is a no, sorry, no Savage. I think it's just an S3 Trio or something terrible like that in here. This is very much like a generic business machine. This is designed for Windows NT or Windows 98 though, so that's that. Let me clear a space here quick so I can get it ready to boot real quick. I gotta move all the software out of the way. I did come with the original IBM keyboard, so that's pretty nice. It's incredibly generic and smushy and soft, but yeah. That probably sounds about right. That's probably where we're at. A 300 Celeron or something is what I'm guessing. All right, let's switch back to our, well, actually, let me fire up the capture stuff yet, too. I hadn't planned if I'm going to do this or not, but it sounds like people want to see it captured. So, we start up the capture stuff. 2 new windows now. Let's see. I'm going to re-rig here now to... There we go. We're going to re-rig here now to the standard setup here, which we'll see the screen come up here soon. We'll have the specs will not be correct this time, obviously, because of the rotating thing here. But let me see here what we're going to... I'm going to move some stuff here, so stand by. I'm going to mute my microphone because I need to move my microphone boom arm a little bit, so... There we go. And I'm going to hook the machine up after I move all this crinkly plastic. And I'm going to hook the machine up. I have emerged from the bottom of my desk here. Oh, we got a beep. What do we have? One for configuration. 64 mega RAM. Oh, it's clicking. A lot of clicking going on. Yeah, I'm not sure what it's doing right now. We'll see here. Yeah, again, the specs below us, of course, are incorrect. So, bad CMOS. Keyboard is locked. Keyboard is unlocked. Wait. That's fine. System summary. Let's look. Oh, let's see. Celeron 467, looks like. So not that bad then. S3 incorporated 303D. So I mean, it would be at least. I mean, I know it's overpowered per se, but it would be a pretty good like, you know, Quake, Doom. It also is clicking a lot. That hard drive does not sound good. That's probably the first one that's going to go for sure. So it's pretty fast IBM then, or Celeron at least. Oh, I don't have a microphone on there, but the hard drive is just click, 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 and then it stops. Click, click. It might be the floppy drive too, I suppose, but it's not bad then for what it is. And again, you can't. I don't think you can upgrade this one or boost it very much. So you're gonna have to deal with it being a Celeron, right? It is what it is, but it's still there. So, so it would be a good machine for playing like late DOS era games too. You could probably have a good time with this one playing your Duke 3D, even Quake, and that kind of stuff, right? And Descent, all those late DOS era games would probably be excellent on this. The thing it has against it is that it's massively huge. So like it's a large computer, and it was meant for being on the desktop, right, in an office setting. It does not sound good. Product data. Oh man, look at that. BIOS date 99. Device and IO ports. Okay, we have the ID there too. Does it have a drive? Try and boot it. See if it will boot. I don't know if it was wiped or not. I have no clue what's on here, so maybe I'll be putting myself in risk here now by showing whatever's on here. We'll see if it boots. Video is pretty poor here, but that is what it is. I'm not going to mess with the video setting now. I know I can get a little crazy with that and trying to get it just right, but I'm going to leave it as this now. I think it might have, but it's clicking so bad. I don't know if that's the hard drive or the floppy. Based on how many serial ports this machine had, it must have been a specific use case machine. It could have been like a, you know, a fax server or you know, something that had a lot of peripherals connected to it. That's always the possibility. I know configuration changes have occurred. Tell me the odds is boot. Yep. No operating system found as expected. So it was wiped, or it doesn't have a hard drive. No, the hard drive in it, I think. I think I was spinning. So no OS on here. So that might be a machine that might be fun to just mess with. I don't know if this is going to be like a Uber machine or like the ultimate like IBM from this era, but I like the design. I thought it was a neat one to mess with. I think that if you fix it up, I think it's more than capable of being a good Windows 95/DOS machine. Of course, a Voodoo card in there would be great, but it's not worth the price, in my opinion. And probably like a maybe a Riva 128 or Riva TNT PCI might be a good one. I would give it at least some 3D capabilities, but it's not a machine you would seek to do ultimate performance for. That's pretty much a not happening at that point. So yeah, that's the IBM 300GL, but I got it for about $20, and I thought that was a neat one to have. And is it the best performer ever? No, probably not, but it's a machine I probably will fix up and then pass on to someone local that might like it. Or just make it into a really cool DOS machine. You can load it up pretty well with DOS, I think. So that is that IBM. We're going to turn it off because nothing else to do with it. Now, let's go ahead and go to, that's my soda can stuff here now. I don't have much room. There's another machine I want to show off as well. Let's see how we're going to do this because now I'm messing around with the camera here. We'll just do... one more thing to show, and that might probably be the last thing we do tonight. We're going to probably boot with it as well, but it's a little more of an interesting machine. Yeah, this was on the free pile. A Dell, Dell Dimension, a black one. And we'll do more again here now. Oh, come on, change it. There we go. And focus. Sorry, I'm just getting really mirrored around. Yeah, Dell Dimension 2100. I did get a Dell. This is a Pentium 3 guy, so we're going to boot it here in a second, take a look. We can actually crack this open and look as well. I love the design, and it's a really small machine, too. It's actually not that large. Oh, come on, where's the camera? Sorry, I'm going to give everyone throw up here now. Take a look inside. Move the microphone again, sorry. I need a better boom microphone system because this is not working super well the way I have it rigged right now, but it's functional at least. So, okay. We have the Dell here, of course, in extreme close-up proximity here, but I'm going to open this case. I can remember how to open it. It's actually quite compact. And you can really get in here and see. Turn on the little light here now, too. So we have actually a socket 370 Pentium 3 in here. And I think this one's actually pretty powerful. It still has a hard drive in here and everything. The hard drive's in. We got memory. The limitation on this one is that we do not have an eGPU slot. This is all PCI, which of course, you know, Voodoo 3 or something will be really useful here as well. However, it does limit what we can do a little bit with it without an eGPU slot of this kind of caliber. That's true. It could be a sleeper. Otherwise, it looks pretty complete. I believe I took the this off and actually took a look at what the processor was. But I think we're just going to boot it again and take a look. But otherwise, you know, it's a pretty tight machine here. There's not much room. But a cool machine nonetheless. You can see it's very, very small. And that can be a really useful thing. But I believe I'm not sure. Knowing it's Dell, I'm assuming the connectors for this power supply are proprietary, as they like to do in most cases. As they jam everything into their machine or that like that. But if you're familiar with the black CRT monitor I have, I think that this is pretty much the same era. I'm going to guess. It's very similar. that late 90s, whatever. It looks like the date code on this one, it has serial number, model number. Looking at the stuff on the bottom here, doesn't say. Model number MCM, so a Dell Dimension 2100. I don't know if it works or not. It has a sound card in it. Looks like a generic Sound Blaster Live of some variety, maybe at best. No extra video card, just integrated one. So let's boot this sucker and see what's on here. So let me hop around and do all that again. So stand by. I will say that the case specifically says Microsoft Windows Millennium Edition. So you know we're ready for the good stuff now. This license for Millennium Edition. So that's cool. Sorry I didn't get a chance to look at the motherboard there, but... We're going to switch things around again. Am I? All right, let me get that hooked up. Cables everywhere. Sorry about that. The PS2 connector was just really giving me a hard time. I could not get it to slide in. Eventually, it went in there properly. So, all right, let's try and boot this one up and see what happens. Oh, I did boot. Yeah, I think it is actually P3 here. Look at that. Yeah, 1.1 gigahertz. 1.1 gigahertz. That is not bad at all. I'll happily take that. 512 mega RAM. All kinds of over the place here with resolution, but yeah. Dell Dimension L1100R. I think I have a Voodoo 3 1000 PCI that I'm actually not using. That'll probably be a perfect fit for this one. Which wouldn't really make any difference in performance on configuration. I'm curious to see if it has anything loaded up on here. It does have a hard drive installed. I mean, it booted right up, no real problem. So, video was on board. Take a look and see if it boots into Windows ME. Long time no see. I haven't seen ME in a long time. But again, this machine, of course, came from use. Now, here's what blows me away a little bit is that this is a really capable, cool computer. Someone decided to put it on the free pile without wiping it. So I'm assuming they either grabbed it from someone's uncle or from someone's, like, you know, whatever it might be. But putting a free computer on the free pile without wiping the hard drive is a little gutsy, I was going to say. I'm not going to poke around, of course. I just want to see if the machine boots. I'm not going to try and show anything. Sure. Yep, Windows ME. It booted right in. Maybe it was reset. It looks like it's a pretty fresh installation. Yep, it looks like it was reset. So we're good. That was my worry, is that we're going to find like personal information on there or something, but Intel graphics, huh? Wow. Yeah, I'm not going to keep this drive. If nothing else, I'm just going to wipe it. I haven't plugged it into my network. But Intel integrated graphics. Not what I was expecting, but with the modem, a pretty sweet machine, honestly. I'm not going to complain too much about this. Could be a pretty nice gaming rig, honestly. A nice Windows 98 machine for sure. I don't think NVMe needs to be in there, but yeah, put in a fast PCI video card. Yeah, a good sound card, PCI as well, of course, and it's pretty nice size. It's pretty easy to take with you at that point for what it is. Put a some sort of real hard drive in there that's not spinning, and that probably helped this machine quite a bit too. And it's just spinning like crazy, but yeah. Not bad at all. It's just weird that, again, that I saw it drop down onto free pile. And I didn't so much like scoop it up or swing in there. I walked by a couple times. I saw it sitting there. I'm like, I think I walked past it. And then I turned around. I was like, oh, I'm going to grab it. Because I figured it was just some generic office PC. Which, I mean, for all intents and purposes, this is. It's a pretty generic machine in that sense. But with this specs, you can actually build a good Windows 98 machine from this. I mean, I don't think that's unreasonable at all to kind of build something like that from that. This will be a good starting point for that kind of machine for sure. Get all my things, my bearing here now thrown around. We're back to regular capture here, I think. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm not sure I'm going to mess with the video here now. The signal is pretty poor. I'm not gonna mess with it. We'll do another time. I do get really focused on getting the right video signal. That looks just. Oh, I know. That should be a little clearer. There we go. I was scaling at force to 1600 by 1200 integer scaling, which looking horrible. Yeah, I usually say like, oh, I'm not gonna mess with it, and then I mess with it. Anyway, that is a pretty cool machine actually. So, yeah, there you go. It's I think it would be. I think it actually has 512 meg of memory right now. So, it's really just a decent PCI video card to make it a 3D capable machine. Which again, the Voodoo 3 would be a excellent choice for that. with this amount of horsepower, and then a Semi-Ultra Live or an Oddity or something would be just really, really cool way to expand this. And then Millennium Edition. It's been a while. It's been a while for sure. And what else would you guys do with these two machines? Now, we've gone through big box games, of course. They're going to get back on the shelf here. We have talked about some of the video cards I picked up, of course. They might be interesting to mess with. The Radeon 9800 Pro for Mac is going to be cool. We will do a PicoGus stream probably at some point, or messing with that, because I think it would be fun to experience that. I haven't messed with it much. And we have some button or mice. We have just, a lot of random stuff. And for me, besides meeting all the people, finding all the stuff was really cool at VCF. Never know what you're going to run into. I'm looking forward to going to more VCF events. I'm hoping to go to maybe the one in Texas next year as well, and then also hitting the one in East. So if anyone else go, let me know. It'll be fun to meet up. Excuse my voice is failing. I talked a lot tonight, and my voice is still not fully from that cold there. I don't need the camera. So what else would you guys do with these two machines we've seen tonight? We have then the Celeron, looks like 500-ish. What was it, 497 or something? I can't remember now. We have this P3 1100 sleeper. Yeah, that's true. There's that option. It feels like it would be kind of a disservice to this machine not keeping it period accurate-ish. Because with this P3, this is clearly just, your kind of typical, I wouldn't say prosumer, but just like a decent home use machines, right? So GeForce 4000 would be those PCI cards. You're basically talking about ultra components here now, right? Because PCI, were there any 4000 series PCI? Aren't those like the unobtainium ones? Those are all EGP, aren't they? Realistically, it feels like a Voodoo 3 might be a better choice, or ideally, it would be a Voodoo 5 PCI. But those are stupid expensive and not worth it. What would we say are the good choices for this card or this machine in a cheaper setting? Imagine if budget is a primary concern for parts, as it were. Because you have to have a decent PCI video card. Were there any of the later MX cards or whatever that were in PCI format? Trying to think of the ones that are like, the GeForce 2 MX or the GeForce 4 MX cards would be equivalent to a late 90s, early 2000 more powerful card. I've thought about doing that too. There are some plans for something coming up here pretty soon, I guess. You could say I have a video coming up before the end of the year that is not, it has some hints of that. We'll have to wait and see there. That's one that's been on. I needed to get done before the end of the year, and here we are almost in December, so I get it done. By golly, every time I do something, life kind of hits me, and just things get delayed or take time. But that Intel video card, I'm really curious. That integrated Intel one, I don't think I've seen that before. All this graphics. I mean, it's clearly just a business one, right? So Intel Corporation, 4 mega RAM, your generic 2D video graphics adapter. So this would play a lot of your late DOS games probably pretty well if you loaded Windows 98 on it, if you're inclined, but it feels like a disservice to just P3 at that point. But that's pretty powerful for that. It's a real bummer it doesn't have an AGP slot, but I know that Dell seemed like for a lot of their machines in the late 90s, they kind of skipped the AGP slot. I've had other machines too from that same era that also lack an AGP slot, which is kind of a bummer, but it's also for home use and that kind of stuff, so they didn't have a ton of need for it. So question, I do not know. We had an assist information right for what it was. You guys want to look it up, but L100R, I mentioned 2100. Good get system input. It got some blinking and stuff going on, so the question is if this machine has bad caps too. It is right in that general area where it might be a problem. Yeah, Windows 2000 will be a good choice too for this. Just for the the fun factor. I haven't messed with Windows 2000 in forever, but it run it for quite a while when it was new. When Windows 2000 started getting driver support and being able to play games on it, then I picked that up right away. But it looked like SD-RAM, but I didn't look, I guess. So still Dell with proprietary stuff. But yeah, a fun machine to mess around with. Again, it was free, so I hated to not give it a good home. It probably would have been picked up at some point too. It was a complete, machine, and I didn't expect it to be a P3 of the speed. That opens up the door to a lot of options. But it's a great haul, I feel like. And I was going to make a full video on this, and I just realized I'm running out of time, and I've been pushing it for so long. I mean, we're in end of November now, and VCF Midwest was in early September, so I feel bad pushing it that far. Life has gotten in the way. Figured this way I can just show off the stuff I picked up. I probably should have done that way earlier. Okay. Okay, at least it is SD-RAM then, because it feels like it would be weird for them to do anything crazy, right? For this kind of machine. That is still pretty generic in the sense of what it is. It's just a generic home machine, maybe a pro model home machine or something, but it's intended for matching almost exactly that Dell CRT I have, if not exactly. I think it's the same color, that black CRT. So, sorry, my voice is breaking here again. I just can't shake that cold. But I called it there, but VCF Midwest was a fantastic event. I'm really hoping to go to more of them next year. Again, I'm going to try and go to the one in Texas. I think that might be fun. I know LGR is probably going to skip out on with the VCF Midwest next year because I think he had some concerns on the size and the caliber of the event was difficult for him because it was so busy. Then he might go to the Texas one instead, I think. But then I would like to head up east because it looks like it's more intimate and smaller there. And also there's several friends I have in that general area. It would be nice to visit them and also see that area. I do love that East Coast area there too. So maybe we can meet up. The people that live in that area too would be awesome to meet up and have lunch or something and just chat about old stuff. But I am pretty pleased with the haul, to say the least. Besides this, I also transported like 21-inch 19-inch diamond CRT for a friend as well. Or what the heck did I transport? Something in the car, because a friend from here locally had also gone to the event, and he was out of space in his car because he bought new stuff. And I'm like, I have space in my car. So then I ended up, my entire back seat in my car was filled with a huge box for a Sun monitor or a Diamond Mitsubishi monitor. Which is fun. I had the space, but it's still pretty funny because I looked in my rearview mirror and I had like a cardboard box intruding on my view for the entire drive home, which is over 6 hours. So, which is fine. I like helping out. So, excuse me. But yeah, it was a fun event as usual. VCF Midwest is always a blast. It is getting so busy, it is almost overwhelming. We'll see. Next year is probably going to be similar, I'm guessing. Also overwhelming. We'll see. But if nothing else, I'm going to try and get to the other ones. I think it would be a lot of fun to see the other ones. So I'm pretty happy with all the stuff I picked up. I'm hoping to use all of it at some point. Definitely keep an eye out for future streams with maybe the Pico Gas, some of the games. Maybe if we can get that Mirador Mac going with that Radeon, we'll probably stream some games like that. Maybe fix up this computer or the IBM, mess around with that stuff, and see for future streams and or videos. We'll see. So anyway, I think I'm going to call it there. I know we're a little short than we usually are, but my voice is fading faster now with whatever heck I got going on. Hopefully to kick that here soon. So appreciate everyone hanging out and going on in journey of exploration with me. A whole bunch of old stuff. Fun. I like old stuff. VCF Midwest is awesome. Go there if you can. Prepare to be overwhelmed. But yeah, anyway, appreciate everyone. I hope you had a good Thanksgiving. Thanks for hopping on this kind of impromptu stream fifth day, and we'll be back again hopefully as usual next Thursday coming up now. Throw some ideas in Discord if you want for things you want to watch me stream. Otherwise, I'll think of something here in a few days. Hope everyone has a good rest of your weekend, and then I will see everyone next Thursday. So have a good night. Thanks for hanging around. Although my voice is breaking, I should record voiceover now. In the world. Anyway. All right, thanks. Good night, everyone.